All right, we're live. Welcome all. This is our third. I was just asking the guys how many times have we done this because I lost count already. Number 3. And we're pretty much been sticking to a monthly rhythm. And I think the plan is to keep that going forward. So I've renamed the stream the AMP panel because look at the panel that's assembled here. Nothing that these guys don't know.
I did have another idea about that name.
Oh, okay, man. Go for it. Let's do it live.
Only fans. We can do only amps. You know?
It's true.
Oh boy.
You want to just call it the panel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we might have the odd guest. We were just talking about that beforehand, right? So
Mark chimed in. Have a great show tonight. Well, let's see. It's really tonight for Dan.
Yeah.
It's have a good morning for Jason, and your afternoon, and I'm afternoon.
Yeah.
Well, you're late afternoon. You're almost night.
So for Shea, it's going to be night by the time this finishes, I would imagine.
Yeah.
It's 8 a.m. in the morning here, so
bright and early.
Oh yeah. I think I said last time I only set an alarm these days for 2 reasons.
We're gonna applaud when you start drinking when we do this in 8 a.m.
Well, man, we'll have to do it. Maybe on we'll get to some anniversary number like number 5. It won't take long.
Won't take long.
It's just one. I'm gonna drink.
I'm gonna drink, or maybe we should do like mimosas because it's then breakfast.
Yeah.
We can do that. Why not?
Or Bloody Mary.
Yeah, Bloody Marys would be good.
There you go, Bloody Marys for Jason.
A Bloody Mary with what do you have, Shea? You have Guinness in it.
I'll put a little Guinness in it. Whatever that. I don't even know if it's called the
That's
Bloody Mary.
a bit weird to me.
No,
you tried it? Anyone tried it?
It's so good. Just a little bit on the bottom. It's really freaking good. Yeah.
Seriously, I'd never tried it, of course. And then Shea made me one or two.
3
when I was there in December. Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm gonna have to say.
All right.
Yeah. You put the.
I think we're offending Dan.
Dan, look on your face.
By the Guinness in the thing. I think that's offensive.
I think we'll stick to the UK.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to be on top of the time zones here when Dan, you'll be moving to daylight saving at some point soon, I would imagine.
Yeah. Forget when it is. Is it next month or end of this
So then
month?
that goes back.
You'll go forward, won't you?
Yeah.
So what is it now? It's 9 p.m. for you now, right?
Yeah, it's 9 now.
So it'll be 10. If we started at the exact same time, it'd be 10 p.m. start.
Yeah.
That getting past your bedtime?
We'll see. I'm late for that.
I'm glad you. I'm good.
I think he's a late guy.
See, it would be much better if it was.
Shea and I are easy to move around an hour. That's not that hard.
Yeah,
it's all about you two guys.
Yeah.
Look, I could probably start at 7. Yeah, maybe we'll see.
Then, if you drink at 7, we're gonna really applaud.
Yeah. So we're into a question here straight away. Thanks for the question, dude. Hey guys, question for everyone, but particularly Dave. Have you ever measured the plate voltage in Synergy modules? How is it limited, and does it differ from the original lamps like the B100?
You know,
I'm assuming he means JJ when you said KK.
I'm not really. I don't think I've ever actually 300, but I mean, I know the very first stage in the actual rack unit, the very first tube that's in the rack unit is like 150 or 60. And then I think it's about right. You know, after the plate resistors, it's around 200-ish, you know, on the next couple stages.
Yeah. So that's worth talking
I
about.
actually haven't measured it exactly. It's actually hard to do unless you have to have a certain one. You have to have the top off while it's in, and you got to measure down into the module. It's high voltage.
I've never even.
KK is Killer Kali. There you go. So probably not. Does everyone realize in the chat that in the Synergy module, there's a 12AX7 in the actual rack outside of the Synergy, outside of the modules? Do you think
yes, that's the first gain stage.
There is a gain stage for free, right? In the unit itself, and I'm assuming, Dave, it's exactly the same in all the Synergy housings that can take a module. They all have that.
Correct. They all have that first input tube, and that first input tube, the cathode of that input tube is set via the module.
Yeah.
So there's a switch on the module that has 3 different cathode settings for the first tube, essentially. So you can, have the Marshall-esque one, the 2.7 with a 0.68, or you can have the Soldano one, which is the one mic with the 1.5 or 8, 1.8, or you could have a 22 mic with a 1.5K. So actually, on any module, though, you can change if you like one of those other settings better.
So that's a dip switch. You said a dip switch on the.
There's a little slider switch on the module. So, when you get shipped a module, it tells you that it should be set in this position, but you can set it in any position if you like it better. Who's to say? So it'll be a little fatter and a little gainier in one position, and it'll be somewhere in between, and then a little leaner and brighter, and in the Marshall-y one. So
it's like a gain style switch.
It's sort of a gain style switch. It's kind of be cool. In really old units like the Randall stuff and things like that, and the old Egnator, it was fixed. So it was like a 10 mic cap and a 1.8K or 1.5K. And it was fixed, and then you could always shelve the individual module. You could shelve the bass out with the first coupling cap, to kind of compensate for that.
Yep. Do there any of the low gain modules? Can you bypass it? So you just use what's on board in the?
No, you can't bypass
always,
the first gain stage. Yeah, but like if it's a Fender style module, it uses that gain stage and only one gain stage out of the module,
just drop them.
Well, depending on what module we're talking,
Yeah, of course, yeah. Interesting.
It's cool. It's actual, it's. I mean, as far as my stuff goes, it's the exact signal path of the preamp of one of my amps. So there's no compromise there at all.
Cool.
I mean, at the end of the day, the voltages that the triodes are seeing and the plate resistors, that have to be pretty close in the ballpark. I would assume. Otherwise, it's not going to sound. Yeah, it's not going to sound the same, is it?
Yeah, you're not doing low voltage. You're doing high voltage there for sure.
Yeah. T-Top. Thanks, T-Top. Hey, Dan, I hope you're on the mend, mate. What's
Cheers, Tommy. Yeah, I had the flu.
So did my son.
Everybody.
My son had the flu and strep throat at the same time.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. He was off school for like a week.
I don't know what it was. I ended up with a sinus infection and some kind of a chest infection all at once with the flu.
Awesome.
And I had like 104 fever for like 6 days straight.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Were you super weak? I had something to. Were you like super weak too?
Mm-hmm.
I had something to where it's like I got up and I'd be moving.
But you remember, so Shea, on the last stream, it was 5 weeks ago, right? You came on and your name was Sick. You changed your name to Sick Boy.
Yeah.
You were not. That was the beginning of that whole freaking episode, right?
It stuck around for a while, man. Are you feeling better, Dan?
Yeah, like getting there now. Yeah, but like I've still been coughing all the time and feeling weak as hell. It's like it's rough, but yeah.
That sucks.
So I had COVID, I think, back in end of November, early December. So it's like I think that made this bout of flu much worse than maybe it would have been otherwise.
Awesome. Or you get it all at once, everything.
Well, hopefully that's my allocation of sickness. Hopefully that's it for a little while now.
Yeah, hopefully.
I was sick too for like a week or so back,
really?
But I didn't get it that bad, but it kind of was gnarly though. It wasn't a total full-blown flu, but
it's rough. It's
been really okay here, except we had been summertime here, right? So it's been it's been fine. Although yesterday, if anyone watches Formula One, yesterday we had like a week of 30 degrees C, dead dry, which is like, I don't know what's that in Fahrenheit, like 85, 90, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Really nice weather. And then on the day of the race, Sunday, it just bucketed down all day, and it was like 16 degrees C. So
wow,
like, man, the cars. I mean, I don't really follow Formula One much, right? I'll see the odd race, but I did watch it yesterday because they're racing in the rain. So much more fun.
Yeah.
So much more dangerous.
So much more fun. Man, they were down 3 cars. Three cars had gone onto the wall even before they started the race.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. No one injured, so it's all good fun.
Yeah. Rough.
All right. Well, I'm gonna well, it's not a question, this is more like an observation. So Marshall released their pricing for these modded amps in Australia. Okay. So I'll give you a point of reference because I'm going to ask you guys to guess what it is. But my point of reference is the 2203X you can buy here, brand new in the store, $3,450 Australian dollars. So let's call it $3,500. That's the stock.
So it's $4,500.
I was going to guess maybe 5.5.
You've already told me, so I'm not going to say.
You guys are going to fucking freak out when I tell you.
Oh man!
I'll tell you the recommended retail, and then I'll tell you what the stores I actually got them listed for.
Yeah.
You ready?
Well, here in the States,
I know what it is in the States.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
10,000 Australian dollars.
Nice. 10 grand.
So it's safe to say that
10 grand.
They're not going to sell any there.
Fuck.
And then, like, to do everyone a favor, the retailers have got them for 7.5. Or so here we go. I've got a screenshot here. The 2203 MS, it's called, which is news to me. First time I've seen that. $7,499. And the 1959 MS, $8,299.
Okay, I have a question. In Australia, then, how much is a B100 Deluxe?
6,000.
Okay,
599 all of them.
Yeah, it's like 4,000 here.
Yeah.
So what's with the price here? Like, why are they asking so much?
And our prices in Europe are around the same, roughly, to the U.S. prices. Maybe a little bit more, but
I can't get my head around it. Before the prices dropped in the US, because remember there was a distributor that had that exclusive arrangement in the US. US prices were more expensive than Australia for the stock amps.
It used to be,
and then it changed when your prices dropped. It was like, okay, US is now cheaper.
Somebody said the kangaroo special, and I just cracked up.
It was So those amps here. I know the Plexi here at least is, I think, $35.99. Is that correct? I think the poorly modded Plexi.
Yeah, $36.99 is what.
Or maybe it's $36.99. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's insane though.
I mean, I don't. I mean, I've had so many people here reach out to me with this, like I already know the news, right? But they're like, have you seen the? It's like, yeah, I've seen it.
You'd think that they'd be able to afford the shielded cable inside with
or maybe they'd put an effects loop in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, what the hell?
Because they could.
Yeah.
I just don't get it.
People will still buy them, so
they will buy them.
Yep.
I mean, they'll buy them because it's exclusive. It's like I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's more for that Instagram moment, isn't it, than actually not liking the sound of the amp.
Have they shipped any yet?
I don't know. In fact, there wasn't any. So at the Melbourne Guitar Show, Marshall had a stand,
Yeah.
They didn't have them on there.
That's weird.
Yeah.
And that's Marshall. So,
I'm still wondering if they're gonna. I mean, from what I understand from everyone here is they can't get any product here.
No,
Yeah.
no, I've heard that same thing as well.
There's no product. There's no Marshall product in the U.S. at all. They can't. Like Sweetwater sells Marshall and stuff, and they, guy ordered a cabinet, and he goes, like they kept pushing it for like 6 months. They kept pushing it back, pushing it back, pushing it back.
Yeah.
Finally, he goes, I just bought one of yours.
There you go.
Yeah, it was $300 more, but I could get it now.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing, right?
I mean, it sounded great. I'm like, yeah, well, it's a good cabinet.
Yeah.
I just kind of laughed about all that because it does. It makes all our stuff look great. It makes our stuff look super cheap by comparison.
Yeah, when you think about it, so you get this. Well, I think the modded 800 has a loop, right?
Yeah, it's a standard Marshall.
Yeah. Probably the same old one they use.
And well, at least that has a loop, but it's a single channel amp for $10,000.
$10,000 amp.
I mean, they could have put like, I don't know.
Or you could get for $6,000, you can get a 3-channel amp with the loop and everything.
Yeah. I mean, I would have expected something like at least one foot switchable setting in it. Just bare minimum.
Well, maybe even like an extra gain stage would be nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Extra stage, it's easy enough to do.
Switchable stage or something like,
it's not got to be anything, super fancy, just a transparent stage, boost it a little bit hotter. Maybe a second master volume or something, but like, it's a really stripped down amp for that price tag.
There was a bit of like precedent here. So the 2C Plus reissue, which it's a more complicated amp, it's obviously got its own special history as well. But that reissue amp went up for pre-order here, and I don't think those have shipped yet. Or maybe they have to Australia anyway. 8,500 Aussie. Which when that news came out, I was like, shit, that's a lot. So Marshall will like hold my beer. We're going straight over the top.
I think 6,000 for my amp's a lot, but
I know it is a lot.
I don't. Why is it that? Is it the exchange rate and the money, or
so you got
dollars,
exchange rate and then freight? Tell you all about freight. And then we have a GST, 10% goods and services tax, which is laid on everything. So when you put those things together, you can take a US translated to Aussie, and it should be pretty much bang on.
Yeah.
There's FX rate fluctuations, but it's only when it starts to get, it's like with my stuff. I've held my Aussie price and my US price for my stuff ever since it launched, and since then the Aussie dollar's weakened quite significantly against the US, although it has come back a bit in the last 2 to 3 weeks. But you don't worry about that. It's only if it changed like 20% and then stayed like that, you might have to reprice something. But it's just the cost of getting stuff shipped here if it's built in the US.
Well, the funny thing about the China tariffs and stuff for us is, even though there's tariffs, the dollar versus the yen is way in our favor. So it almost cancels out some of the tariffs. Because our dollar is worth so much more.
Yeah, I started noticing tariffs last year when I was buying from way before Trump was president, when Biden was still in. I was noticing tariffs on stuff through Mauser and DigiKey. So they've been creeping those in for a while there.
Well, it started with originally when Trump, and then it didn't change the first 10%, and then now it's more. But
it hasn't been too bad. Hasn't been super bad, but let's hope it doesn't get worse. We'll see.
I'm just interesting. Like from Mauser, if I order like a massive load of parts, they cover all the taxes on there.
Same, Dan. Same for me, man.
Same for you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, some things work out really cheaper for me. Yeah.
So in Australia, you have a thing. So if you're buying from overseas, if the value is more than 1,000 Aussie dollars, then you'll pay GST to customs.
Yeah.
So like a lot of stuff I'll bring in will be magically under $1,000.
Magically.
Yeah.
I'm
Multiple orders.
Very careful with my orders in terms of
Yeah.
what's in it, you know. But if you're buying like this is, you know, when I'm because I've got like I move a lot of stuff between the two countries with my own two companies, right, which is legitimate. And you've got a US company and an Australian company, and they can sell each other stuff.
Yeah.
But it's obviously I'm the arbiter of what the value is. But when I buy from Mauser or whatever, yeah, it's the same. Yeah. It's only when I'm buying things like if I get a big order from CE distribution, and it's pretty easy for that to go over 1,000 Aussie, and then you'll pay GST on the way in, you know.
Yeah.
Another thing
for us, you know,
go ahead,
you get hit with like 20% on anything you bring in from Europe or anything that comes in from anywhere outside of the UK. So, you know,
20.
I think it's 20%, and I think it's on amounts that are over about 125 or 130. So I just try and keep some of those orders. I split them up into multiple orders, you know.
Same, man.
Yeah,
Same.
it's just a.
That's what the US has had too, right? The US has had this $800 de minimis or something that on those tariffs, especially from China, there was an $800 like threshold,
right?
That the US Postal Service and so on would just let it through because they just couldn't. They can't process it all.
Yeah.
But they've been talking about eliminating that, which would mean that anything, whether it was $10 or $1,000, would get it.
Yeah.
I'm just dreading waking up to this news one day where it says tariffs announced on tube amplifiers. We've done steel and aluminium, and now we're doing tube amps. Oh no!
Hey, I was going to say another thing too about the Australian thing. So, when did your pallet arrive, Jason?
Oh yeah, Friday.
Last Friday. Okay. So he got a pallet from the factory, right? And how long did that take?
Man. This took. I thought the first time
when it got picked up. From when it got
3 months.
Picked up, 3 months.
Well, and one pallet. The reason for that, so by sea from LA to Melbourne is 30 days, right? So you kind of accept that, right? It's on the freaking ocean. It's a boat, you know. It's not flying, so it's 30 days because it also goes. The route they take is LA to Auckland, New Zealand, to Sydney, then to Melbourne. But it sat on the Long Beach port in LA for 8 weeks, pending a customs inspection, which they finally did. And the customs inspection took a week, and then it was released and got loaded, and it went out. Now, say, Dave, I got my own customs story. I haven't told you this, Shea.
Oh,
fuckers.
Yeah,
let's hear it.
So this pallet had been really well packed by Kyle and the team, right? So I was super, because I saw the photos before they loaded it, super stoked with how it was 350 kilograms of stuff. So that's about nearly 600 pounds, and about 2 meters tall. It was taller than me, you know. You stand next to it, and the thing's taller than you are. So there's a lot of stuff on there. There's enough hardware on there for about 20 amps. You know, transformers, chassis, all kinds of stuff. But I had 2 4x12s as well. The new cabs that we're bringing out. So these are my own ones because I wanted first ones that would come off the factory. You know, I'm grabbing them. Anyway, so the customs inspection, they'd unwrapped the whole pallet, pulled all the protective outer kind of cardboard and stuff that Kyle and the guys had put up there, pulled the back off one of the 4x12s to look inside it.
They just throw the screws back on the pallet?
They throw the screws away.
What? Fuck.
They put one screw back in on the rear panel, the center one, right? So it's got a
sounds familiar.
As soon as I saw it and noticed it, I mean, I'm obviously looking for damage. You know, there's no external damage, thank God. And I immediately thought about your Justin Hawkins story with the head, and I was like, so I'm looking around thinking, oh, surely they put the screw somewhere.
Nope.
Nightmare.
Just threw them away.
Sure, it didn't go to the UK first.
Yeah.
This is fucking the worst.
Man, I mean, it's like, so I don't know, man. I look, the freight thing is still, it's just one of these things I have to solve. You know, it's the thing I just have to deal with. But I've actually there's been a couple of pre-orders on these 4x12s with guys here, and they were prepared to pay to air freight them. FedEx. So FedEx do, normal freight, right? Where you just get your box, your Mauser box or whatever. Well, they'll do heavy freight as well. And they'll do pallets, and they will deliver the pallet to a residential address and drop it at your door, whatever. So anyway, the first order that came through, this guy, 2 4x12s. This is kind of before I put a post up yesterday, right, announcing these kind of being generally available, but guys that are existing customers had already ordered a couple. So anyway, he had 2 4x12s, and they were fully boxed. So this is a 36 by 36 by 18 U-line box, double wall cardboard, 100 pounds, and he had 2 of them, so they go on a pallet. It's quite a big, like when it arrived, I was like, holy shit, this thing's massive.
Yeah.
It was cheaper. I worked it out. So great rates. Do the very last minute booking. Great rates. Yeah. It was cheaper than sea freight, and it took 7 days door to door. So
great rates is fantastic for that.
Like I know what I'm doing next time, man. I'm not doing sea freight.
No. I use great rates all the time to ship everywhere, and it's
amazing.
Like normal book rates $700 today, $180. What? Okay,
yeah,
great.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I figured out with the account that I've got, because I ship a lot of stuff back and forward, obviously, that the FedEx account I have in Australia, which has special rates to and from the US, the rate that I can get when I just book at any time, it's always the same as the great rates rate. I check it.
Yeah, if you have it set up, you can, like, I know our factory has fantastic rates anywhere.
Man, I can imagine.
And it's always like, yeah, can you ship this for me? send it here. But what I started doing with people, like when I was when people that I know and stuff, I'll start paying the custom stuff on our end. We pay for it because it always gets there then.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
When they're billing, when they're billing me, it's like it's like I just sent another head to Dan Hawkins in the darkness, over to the UK.
Yeah.
When you send this, can we pay the customs, and then I'll just bill it back to the client when we get the customs fee, because I wasn't going to go through the other thing.
You don't want that drama, right?
Because if it's billed to us, they don't give a shit. It goes right through.
It's just true, man.
It's happened to me before. I sent one overseas, a skeleton key overseas, and they couldn't get a hold of the customer.
Yeah,
for customs, and it came back to me.
Yeah,
and he still wants and then they charge you a fortune.
Yeah, I had the same thing happening. I said about it before that happened, and it was
If you use great rates and then they send it back to you, they're going to charge you the book rate. Which is going to be like, that happened with the Justin amp. It cost me $700. I made zero money on that amp.
That's part of business, right?
Like whenever I've used FedEx, whenever I'm shipping stuff around with FedEx, it always goes straight through the border, gets delivered, and then like a letter ends up going out to them at like a later time usually.
Yeah, I always use FedEx. I don't
because every time I use UPS, it's like it gets to the border and it's just like brick wall. Doesn't go anywhere for like a week or something, and then they they want info, they want the payment up front, or they won't even deliver it. But in most cases, when I've had stuff from FedEx come to me, or when I've shipped it out, usually with them it just goes like straight to the delivery point, and gets delivered, and then they do the customs.
Maybe
that's what you want.
I've had bad experience, but yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe I've just been lucky.
Yeah. For sure.
It's crazy. Hey, we've just got a question here from Rick. How's the Marshall builds these days? You probably mean build quality.
I mean, the hand wired stuff is it's
kind of the same, right?
They do a good job.
Fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even mind the reissue 800s. They're good.
They're good. They're good amps, man. I mean, I reckon that construction method, the 2203X, it's the same. Yeah. Ever since they're using PCBs in those amps, they're the same.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's the replica of the good era of the 2203. So
100%.
It's
As for the DSL stuff and all that, I couldn't say. I don't know.
That one looks sweet. The one behind you.
Yeah, that's a reissue that I just completely
got it.
The fuck out of.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All the way into it.
Hell yeah,
Dan, you got to do this now, man. You got to do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, here we go.
Yes.
Yeah, end to end, green switches.
Yeah,
all the fun stuff. And then you got this one. This one, Dave, you might be able to help date it because it's
a tremolo.
No, it's a super PA. It's Plexi.
Oh, okay, yeah. Uh-huh.
It's a real Plexi. But the serial, the serial bit on the back is completely gone. It's faded.
So does it have can caps for the filter caps, or does it have everything inside?
Axials inside, on the board.
Axials inside. It's probably a 68.
Late 60s for sure.
Yeah, 68. Yeah.
Something interesting as well. I'm going to show you with the camera just because it's easier for me to just do this and probably flip the. How do I flip the? Maybe I can't. Just do it this way. I'll just turn the camera on. You see these input jacks?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen those before?
Wait, what
are they
different about them?
They have like washers on them, like finishing nuts.
No, they're just like really big jacks. They've got a plastic washer behind them, but they've got the original like die on the solder joints and everything.
Wow,
I've never seen. So it's like almost like a no, I've never quite seen that.
Yeah, I've never seen them either. It's really interesting.
Are they round?
Yeah, they're like a little bit.
And how do
domed.
you get the nut off, or how?
I
see. I see. There's a nut in the middle.
Yeah, there's a nut that goes around it, and they've got like a 2 indents that you can put a pair of pliers.
Never, ever have seen that. I don't know if. I wonder if that's original.
Do you think they've been replaced?
I mean, the jack might be original, but maybe the inserts aren't.
Yeah,
that go into the jack.
Yeah, it's weird.
I've never seen that, and I've seen a lot of fucking amps.
Yeah, it's weird. I've never seen it. But
I mean, I've seen so many old Marshalls of dating back to 1964, and I've never seen that.
No, same. I don't know if it was the thing is the solder joints.
What are you going to do to that?
Everything looks absolutely 100% original on the connections.
What are you going to do to that amp?
Oh, I've already done it.
Okay.
It's got a 5 gain stage thing in it.
Send it to me, man.
But it looks all stock. So.
Yeah, it looks stock, but it's got like 5 gain stages, and then it's got foot switchable masters and foot switchable gains. So it's like duplicates, a little bit like how you do with the small box, where you've got master that kind of thing.
2 gains, 2 masters, yeah.
Yeah,
and that's cool. That's a great amp, then.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, it wasn't 100% stock.
Was the transformer stock?
The mains transformer was changed, but the output transformer is original.
Great. Sure, it sounds awesome.
Yeah, it sounds killer. It's
now
great.
You get all the good stuff.
There's one of those. There's actually one of those for sale here. Guys had it listed for months. It hasn't shifted yet. He wants 6,500 Aussie. So what's that? About $4
grand.
$4 grand
US. Give maybe a little bit more.
Actually, in this day and age, that's not all that bad.
Pretty fair price, I think. Isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a late. I think it's a 68. I think it's the same.
Yeah, if it's all the caps inside, it's a 68. So that's the same, era, like a 12.
It's a 12 series, right? Yeah.
How's it sound?
Could be.
Yeah, it's a great sounding amp. Feels great, sounds great. It's got the original, like I say, original transformer, original choke. It's all mustards inside and some ceramics.
Cool. Oh yeah, great.
So Dan, in terms of factory, did it have 4 12AX7s?
Yeah.
4 pre's as stock?
Yeah, 4 of them. And it's got like a little extra board. It's got the
just for the extra front end.
Yeah, like the turret board with like the perf holes in it. You know?
Those are very friendly to mod because you got all the extra stuff.
Yeah,
man.
totally.
Oh, yeah.
The other thing was this one it looked like it had really never been maintained, so there was tons of stuff I had to do with it. You know, lots of parts that were kind of hanging on. You know,
without having studied that circuit, how do they bring? So in a 2-channel, you know, a super lead or whatever, right? We have our.
It's
mixer
more mixer
resistors.
resistors.
Just 4 mixer
exactly.
resistors.
4 mixer resistors.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's like 470k mixers, and they just meet
everywhere.
at the same original point.
Yeah.
Shared cathode.
Right.
Shared cathode. Super bass tone stack.
Yeah.
56k 250 puff.
Mm-hmm.
The filtering on it was 16 on the screens.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That sounds like late 60s, doesn't it? Though
that is a total 12 series.
Yeah, it's got to be like a 12 series.
Yeah, 50 on the mains, 16 on the screens. It's either 40 or 100 on the phase inverter, not phase inverter. Yeah, phase inverter. And then probably 33s in the preamp.
Yeah, 32, 33.
Maybe 32, 33.
I actually have the caps that came out of it.
Yeah.
It was probably a 32 or a 16, a Hunt's cap that was for the PI. That
32?
was on the outside. That's on the outside, but all the other caps on the outside.
Yeah. You know, this is an interesting thing.
Yeah.
So I was playing with something the other day on a 50 watt amp. Normally on 50 watt amps, I just kind of follow like the original 50 watt style of deal, where the phase inverter was 47 or 50 microfarad. But sometimes it bothers me. Have you ever like stuck in the filtering of like 100 watt in there where it's 100 mic in a 50?
Yeah.
There, man, it's better.
Can be.
It can be better.
Yeah.
Depends on the circuit, I guess.
It's interesting. It's almost just, it seems more together and tighter. Well, it's tighter sort of, but I like it better.
Yeah, you know what? It also, if you've got 100 on the phase inverter filtering, I mean, it feels like it gives you more thump in the middle area.
Yeah, more punch in general.
It does tame a little bit of the top end. Sizzle, and it kind of comes in more.
Yes, but punchier.
Yeah, it's
like
punchier,
a punchier kind of thing. Yeah. And I agree exactly with what you said. And I was just playing with that because something was bothering me in the amp I was tweaking for some guy, one of my amps. And I'm like going, it's not exactly what I want it to sound like. And it just dawned on me. I'm like, wait a minute. Let me try this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there it is.
To be honest, I don't commit to one or the other when I
it's based on the amp kind of to me.
Completely.
It's like
I've gone really low on some amps there as well. I've gone like sometimes as low as like 16 if it really needed it, and you can feel it like squishy, but then if you've got high plate voltage, that sort of counteracts the squish a little bit. Like I always think like preamp squish is kind of like in the feel is a very different thing to power amp squish.
I'm
using the word squish, but like this is kind of the only thing
I understand what that means though.
It's like you dig in and it's like it feels like it's got some give to it. It's not so percussive. It's one of those things I think where if it works with a particular amp, it really works.
Yeah. I also there's part of me that still in some amps likes that low screen filtering. Because it doesn't work all the time, but man, there's something about the low screen filtering that's pretty cool. That's when it's down to like 15 or something. It's just like
I think
there's something kind of juicy feeling about it. It has that feel to it. But again, depending on the sound you're going for, I always say it depends. Well, it depends. It's like, what kind of sound are you shooting for? What's the goal of this amp, or what's the goal of this mod? And do you want it to be like AC/DC? Do you want it to be like this? Do you want it to be like Van Halen? What do you want it to do?
This is a we've actually got onto this question here from Martin just by ourselves here, which is cool. So he says, loving the geek out, gents. Can you all speak about what you feel affects the tightness of response in Marshall style amps?
Well, this is sort of what we're discussing.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's sort of a loaded question, because there's so many different factors that can affect that.
Yeah,
so many different things.
If you're talking like let's say you're just talking straight up lead spec Plexi, right? It's sort of interesting, the different filtering. So 12 series filtering generally was 200s in series for the main, so 50 mic on the mains. The low screen, which was like 15 or something, it was 233s in series, or 32s in series, interchangeable. And then it was either 40 or 100 in the PI, and then generally it was 33 in the preamps. So it's interesting, changing the screen filtering to a larger value will not make it necessarily tighter and less bass.
No.
In reality, it sort of works the opposite way. Yeah. It actually kind of gives you more bass, and it's more loose in some respects. And the smaller screen filtering will give you actually a tighter response in a Plexi kind of thing. So, I mean, when I've done this in detail with, like, I've even taken Plexi
SL68,
SL68s, and changed the filtering to the old filtering.
Wow.
Which is 50, 15, 133s. And when you change that, actually the bass response gets tighter.
Yeah.
It's interesting changing that screen cap, because it does all sorts of interesting things,
Also, the balancing resistors on the screens, like if you mess around with those values, there's just tons of.
I actually like the original values. I like 56.
I do too.
If they're going to be there at all. Now,
I'll take it up sometimes, but
if you're talking old 12 series, there aren't any.
No, that's usually what my kind of preference is.
I kind of agree with you. If you're going to go for like the 69 spec, which is, then I put the 56Ks in, and it's more of that kind of thing. But man, I know. I saw that George Lynch amp, and you didn't have balancing resistors there.
No.
Yeah. And George got the one that I did for him.
How did he go?
He said he loved it.
Perfect.
He goes, it's a smidge brighter than the other one, but he goes, it's great.
Right? Yeah, close enough that, like, at gig volume, it's not going to make
that amp was a pain in the ass. That was one of those.
That because of him or because of the amp?
No, that was the amp. That was one of the amps that didn't have any twisted heater wires.
Yeah.
And also the heater balance was just fucked in that amp. So there was all sorts of noise and hums, and so in the end it was like, oh no, this is getting DC.
Yeah.
Because there was no way to get it quiet. There was just no way to get it.
No.
And when you added the hot mod that he was using with it, that was really fucked. You had to DC it.
Yeah.
Because adding that hot mod then added all sorts of other heater fucking crap. So it's almost better if you're going to use one of those hot mods to have at least those, the cathode follower tube and the front end tube be DC.
Yeah.
Because then the hot mod will all be DC, and then it's dead silent, Yeah. There was no way getting around any of it on this amp. It fought me every way possible. And not to mention, it had been kind of butchered on the board anyway. So the board was sort of falling apart, and you're putting new caps in, and okay, that trace isn't there anymore, so let's just tack it over with the part of the capacitor lead,
and scraping off the the material underneath,
scraping off the thing to tack it to it, and nothing is worse though than those late 70s boards.
Agreed.
If you just look at those, they fall apart.
You know what, the board that they did right after they switched from turret, that first one, the one that's got like the really script looking writing, right?
72, 73. Worst one.
Good luck taking caps out.
It's like, it's ridiculous. I've got a 74 that's got that board, and if you look at it the wrong way, the traces will just fall right off.
Oh man!
After you mod it underneath, you're looking at it going, well, it's mostly hand wired now.
You're
just fixing the traces with wire and or leads of the caps, and it works in the end, but
if you own one and you want to fiddle around with it, it's better to just yank the board and put a turret in there.
Or put a new board that like Jason makes or something. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Like one of those ones. Perfect. It's like
it's one of the reasons.
Pull all the old parts off and use them, reuse them.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of the reasons why PCB amps have this bad name about them. It's the old PCB versus hand wired. Well, if you talk about those ones, maybe.
I fucking yell at people all the time about this.
Oh God,
it's like this isn't a Hot Rod DeVille, man. It's not a one-sided board. It's plated through. It's thick. It's like
drives me nuts.
Your boards are actually hard to you got to have a really decent soldering line to get that joint going.
On the ground side.
Oh yeah, man. Because the ground pads connect to a ground plane, so the heat dissipation through the PCB is.
Yeah, my old Hacko used to struggle with that. I got like a JBC, and that thing just heats it crazy quick. But those things.
Wait, what heats it crazy quick?
JBC technology.
Oh, okay, yeah. Is that the faster?
Crazy fast. I'd never go back after going to that. It's crazy.
Yeah, is that the Heiko that does the more what's it called, the
it's all the stuff happens inside the cartridge. It's like a long cartridge. Like Metcal do the same stuff, where it's like that, and JBC. I got like a Chinese, or I'm not sure what it is, but it uses the same thing. It's a clone, but man, it's freakishly quick. You can if you take old boogies that have got that big ground plane that are really hard to get hot and flowing, you just put it on it. 2 seconds later, it's just like a pool of just molten solder. It's brilliant. And
then you hope the traces are good so they don't start bubbling off the board.
You're braver than me, Dan, putting one of those in an amp like that.
Oh yeah, but, it's great. It's quicker.
Well, this is it.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a question here. Howdy guys, what is your absolute favorite pedal to drive a Plexi?
Jeez.
Dan?
I like the SD1.
SD1.
I can answer this one really quickly. This exact OD1.
OD1, man.
OD1.
It's a really beaten up.
I have an OD1.
They're so good.
They sound great. Yeah, well, they shelve all the low end out.
Yeah, it's like
tight.
It's like a more gritty, pissed off sounding tube screamer. It's got the mid hump. It's got the really big honky mid hump. It's not like a super overdrive. There's a big misconception. Everyone always says, "Oh, it's a super overdrive without the tone pot." It's not. It's not at all. But yeah, this particular one, I've got two of them. This one's the old, rusty, dirty one. This is the great sounding one. The other one I've got is cool, but it's tight sounding. It's more polite sounding. This one is just absolute crazy madness.
Do you think then, not that I never go down the kind of pedal rabbit hole, right? But do you reckon there's something in there around the different eras of those OD1 pedals?
Yeah, there are.
The tone,
Yeah, there's lots of differences between them over the years. You've got the early ones that have got the 14 pin, or is it? No, 16. whatever it is.
The op
Yeah,
amp,
it's the long chip, you know.
Yeah.
You got the long chip thing, which has got kind of its own sound. But these ones I've got the 4558, you know, the later one. But one of them's got like the classic 4558D, which like, you know, you see more often. But then this one has got a 4558DX in it. And like I haven't found like any info online anywhere about the X part on there, other than they said it's like a selected like version of a DD or something. But yeah, it's gainier and it's more like hairy, you know, like the tone on it is like really wild and aggressive. So
yeah, but if you look at the schematic of those, the first coupling cap in it shrinks the bass a lot.
Yeah,
you know, a lot.
It's a big shaving, you know, massive shave off.
Yeah, so that's what makes it kind of cut.
Yeah.
You know,
diodes are different as well between them as well. Like some of the ones you'll find, even the later ones, they've got like some of them have got the yellow diodes, the black diodes, or the blue ones. And I've messed around with that a few times on a one that I've got that's a bit of a donor, and that stuff does make quite a difference. They do clip differently. I think this one's got the ones with the black stripe in it. I think, I'm not sure. But,
most of the time when someone's like beating up a Plexi, though, if it's already dimed out, they're not using much gain from that. No. Generally, the gain's almost off or just up.
Yeah,
it's up to 2 maybe. And generally, I like it at 2, and then just use the output level to how much boost you want into the amp.
Yeah, it gives you plenty.
But you know, you can use other things too. DOD 250 was always good, one. You know, for a Marshall. The one of my Bucks and Boosts work well because you got a tight knob on it and you can tighten it the fuck up, you know. Right. I mean, even classic things like just a simple Boss G7. Yeah, tweak it how you will, you know.
Yeah, G7 looks good.
You know, that works well. Any treble booster kind of thing works generally well.
I've got
a compressor like the Boss CS2 in front of a Marshall.
You can do that too. Yes,
great. Sure. Yeah, this one's really good. That one I kind of picked up a little bit on that. I heard like Steve Stevens used one around the Top Gun era.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's like I heard that and I was like, let's give it a try. And yeah, it's great. You know, it doesn't really kind of have too much of a tone. It just
kind of gives it a little more.
Makes it,
you know.
Yeah, it makes it feel a little bit easier too, because like Plexis are really exposing. You know, if you're having a bad day when you're playing through a Plexi, just put a compressor in front. It helps. It's a confidence booster, right?
Sometimes we need that help. I've got a Cocoa Boost. The Cocoa Boost is pretty cool with the
Cocoa Boost works. Yeah. I'm trying to think of other. You know, the old DOD BiFET boost. You ever anyone play with those? Those are really cool, man. They have a tone knob and a boost, and it's an awesome boost pedal.
Doug Aldridge used to use one of those back in the
man. A lot of people used to use one. You know, I was reminded of it recently, and so I went out and bought one.
Nice.
You know, one of those things like, let me go to Reverb for a second. How much are they? Oh, these are cheap. Okay, great. Click.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. It's cool.
Does it sound like anything?
It's sort of a clean boost, but the tone knob is really the key because you can, kind of get it to snarl or be brighter or more cut like a treble boost. And it's really just an op amp with the tone knob. It's like really simple, but it does sound cool.
I'll have to grab the schematic online and put one together.
Yeah, or if you find one cheap, buy it. I was looking to put it together at first, and then I'm like, well, wait a minute, this is too cheap. I'll just buy one.
Yeah, exactly. If it's cheap enough, then why not?
Yeah,
if it's like an arm and a leg, then maybe not.
I'll never get around to it otherwise.
Yeah. God knows I've got enough shit to take care of.
Yeah. My own stuff, I don't do.
Yeah, you were talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather I got a Fender Bassman back here that I need to do something with and redo and kind of gut and make it right. Yeah. But I'm like thinking maybe I'll send it to Lyle.
Yeah.
And just have him do it for me because I just won't get around to it.
Be done right.
You know, at least it'll get done.
Get done right too.
Yeah.
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 He looks like he does nice work.
Someone's here's asking me about why don't I use cab makers in Australia? It's because 70% of what I sell is in the US. So if I was making cabs here, I got to ship them over to the US.
Yeah.
Most of them anyway. So it doesn't make sense, right? I got to think about that. You would think about like, where are these things going to end up? Most of them in the US. So you want them made in the US.
Yeah.
There's a question for you here, Dave.
Uh-oh.
We can jump to it. 2 questions. Who will be making each new Jose model, you or Boaty Camps? And thoughts about the latest amp sim from STL Tones?
I don't know anything about the latest amp sim of STL Tones.
It's not.
They better not label it Friedman.
Yeah, this is going to say.
Like, now I have to go look at that, because if they label it Friedman, they're in trouble.
I doubt they do.
I'm not making the Jose's. I'm heavily involved in it, though. So Bad is going to make them, but I'm overseeing every little detail of that one. So,
I mean, Dave, you go to the factory, you spend a
I mean,
day
I already go test every single amp that leaves the factory. So,
yeah,
and that's insane. But this time I'm going to be very selective on, you know, my favorite builder is going to be actually wiring them. And then I'm going to be extra hands-on with it.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Purposeful Porpoise is asking, what do we think of the vintage modern? I had this question from a guy on Instagram yesterday, actually, a good Aussie-based guitar player, who says, you guys will laugh at this. He said, his question to me was, why can't I get a volume boost in the effects loop of my vintage modern?
That's simple.
Post-phase inverter master.
Post-phase inverter master, and if you know, well, you can get a volume boost if you want to use it much cleaner and you want to turn that master all the way up.
Then you might as well just put it in front, you know, like.
But then there's still a ground loop that they put in those amps.
Yeah.
Which I discovered when I first did that first one.
Oh yeah.
I think there's a ground loop in here.
I think we've chatted about this amp at least once before, and I think the general consensus was that's a pretty good mod platform, actually.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of cool
100 watt Marshall. It's a good cheap amp.
Well, what's great as a mod platform with it is you can pull the boards out really simple.
Yeah.
You know, they just pop out, and then you're just sitting there modding the board on your bench.
Yeah.
Anytime you can do that is fucking fantastic compared to a JC Manhunter where you've disconnected half the board and the board's tipped up halfway up here, and you're trying to fucking solder suck the parts out. And, you know, sometimes I've literally taken on those amps, I'd just take the whole board out and just like rewire it then again.
Wait, easiest way. If you can, it's the best thing to do, right?
I know. It's kind of a pain. I don't always do that, but
yeah, I know. When like the Studio series or an Origin or something like that, I don't take the board out anymore. It's like it's too much fucking work. Just do it from the top.
That's not too bad to take that board out, though.
You know,
yeah. It comes down to like how much stuff I'm changing.
Depends what you're doing. Like,
what are you doing?
Absolutely. You know, if it's like an actual mod, and I say a mod rather than a rebuild, because a lot of times like people will say something's a mod, and it's not a mod, it's a rebuild. You know, because if you're changing every cat, every other resistor, that's a rebuild. But if it's just a mod and there's a lot of parts you're going to keep in the circuit and everything, then great. You know, it doesn't need to be pulled. But if you're gonna go
spot on, right, man,
caps out and other stuff, then it's quick enough and easy enough to get under it.
It still cracks me up when guys that I know that I've like they've got a 1959 hand wide that I've completely rebuilt, basically. Well, the preamp all the way to the tone stack, even beyond it. Yeah. And they still call it their Plexi. It's been my Plexi. And I was like, well, yeah, well, it's got a plexiglass panel on it. It's not a fucking Plexi though, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Like a lot of those guys are doing it for the gram, you know, like they want to like kind of, you know, boast about having the Plexi and all that thing, but in reality, most of them don't like a Plexi.
I hate them.
Funny because they want to like big up Plexis, but then if you give them a real Plexi and tell them to play through it, they'll just hate it.
They freaking hate them, man. It's like all the dudes that buy the SV20H, the baby, the baby Plexi, right? Cool amp, man. But they get them.
Yeah, they sound great. Expecting
it to sound, I don't know, Judas or whatever, straight out of the box, and it's the same because even at 20 watts, it's still loud.
Oh, loud. It's loud enough to annoy the neighbors.
Hell yeah. And they just go, it doesn't sound anything like what I expected it to. So I said, why did you buy it? They say, oh, because it looks cool.
Yeah.
Do you remember, Jason, when you were here, when we did that mod for Mark Huzansky, and when he sent it in, I was like, dude, let's turn it up in my shop. And we fucking turned it all the way up.
Yeah.
It was so loud and it sounded great like that. So
yeah, it does.
Turning them up really loud once in a while is really good fun, like especially also if you do it with 100 as well. Like when I did a couple of Plexis for Andy Sneap, and you've got to test them at like breakneck volumes with his stuff because he's gonna run it like flat out. And if there's anything that will start acting up, it's going to act up.
You got to know, man.
3 o'clock. Yeah, you got to know, and it's probably going to happen when it's like already making the windows start to bulge out, and cranking those things, you've got to like go 2 rooms away in the house, like while it's in the living room, you've got to go like somewhere else.
This is where you need the wireless, man. This is where the guitar wireless.
Yeah, just like wireless or a long cable or something. You need like ear defenders on. It's ridiculous.
Dave can turn up his bloody cabinet as loud as he wants where he is.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, commercial building, so I can do whatever the fuck I want here.
Yeah,
I don't play it that loud here.
No, I know, man. It's just like you just.
That's what my power station's for.
It's just
when
you're around this stuff all day, every day, you just don't need it. I reckon we've answered this before, and I know what Dave's going to say, but I'm going to put this up anyway because it's always good for a laugh.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best mod for a stock JCM 900?
God,
I got it here. Yeah.
Dave's answer involves a trash can. I think.
Thanks. Now you've done it. The trash can mod.
Yeah, the trash can mod. You see how high it bounces.
You know what? All jokes.
Did I hear the trash can mod?
Yeah, the trash can mod, man.
I love how you just got up and left.
Well, yeah, exactly. I need a beer for this.
There's not Scott's saying take the.
Well, the first thing to ask is which JCM 900.
Well, that's right.
Yeah,
because the SLX maybe you could do something with.
Oh man, the SLX even in stock is great. It's a cool sounding amp.
Cool,
but the other two, dual reverb one, oh no.
Yeah, the typical one, the one that's all solid state, all that kind of thing. That one's kind of buzzy and teeny sounding, but just the other one, the high gain Mark III or something, Mark III master volume, something like that.
Yeah,
that one's okay. I mean, it's kind of cool. It's like 3 stages with a bit of diode clipping in there, but it's like the kind of clipping they put in there is like, what did they put, like a bridge rectifier or something?
Yeah,
it's like if you change that out for some different clipping or move it.
So Dan, is that they first did that in the 2205, didn't they? That style of bridge rectifier clipping sounds awesome.
Yeah, exactly. You know what though, with those 2205s, it also depends because when you get to like 87 or 88, the whole circuit shifted, and that one from like 87, 88, like till I guess they only did for 2 years. I guess from that point after, that one can sound really cool. It's gainy. It doesn't have as much of the bleed through that goes through the two channels.
Is that when they actually changed the model number? So it was a 2205 initially, and then it went to something.
They changed the switching.
Same name, same model number.
But I generally 2205 just take the board out.
Yeah.
Just redo the whole amp.
If you're not into the core sound of it, I mean, like they can sound pretty cool, but the weird thing with those circuits is that like I heard a really killer tone from one of those things, and you know the guy who plays for Dokken, John Levin.
Yeah.
John Levin. Yeah, John Levin's from Europe, I think. But John Levin, yeah, John Levin's the one. One of my friends had a bootleg of a band that he played for when he was like, still a teenager back in like New York. And he said to me he had like a 2205 or a 2210, and he wasn't boosting the front end, but he had a GE7 or some kind of a graphic in the loop. He was dumping the mids because the mid pot on those is 100k pot.
Yeah.
So it's really honky if you turn it up. But he had like, I think every other control on the front panel pretty much maxed. So it was putting out max gain. And then he was just shaping the tone like a boogie later on in the circuit.
Yeah.
Through the old 75s, the kind of the better era of the G1275 speakers. That tone was absolutely massive. Like really killer. Sounded like a really ripping Moddy Marshall tone. But that's like the best tone I've ever heard from one of those amps. But clearly you've got to kind of use it in a certain way.
Yeah.
You've got to set it a certain way, and it's like probably a one-trick pony at that point. But yeah, massive sound.
Wow. It's interesting. Well, like Tom Morello has used that amp for years.
Yeah,
and it's very interesting with his setup. He puts his entire pedal board in the loop of the amp.
Crazy, right?
Everything,
including the wah,
the whammy.
Yeah,
that's how that wah is so
everything. It's all in the loop of that amp.
Oh yeah.
And then he uses one of those older PV cabinets.
With the Butcher era or something like that.
Yeah, the Butcher era cabinets, like with the PV speakers in it.
Those are
badass cabinets. Everything's wrong about this idea.
Yeah. And doesn't he, Dave? Doesn't he also play everything on the neck pickup?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, wow.
And so it's all wrong, but it's good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always thought those cabinets were awesome, man.
Those cabinets were good, man.
Yeah,
they were good.
What's the speaker?
It's a PV speaker. I don't.
Was it something like a PV Black Widow or something?
Yeah, something
Black Widow.
like that.
That was their main thing, right? The Black.
Yeah.
But I never saw one because, like in the UK, that stuff wasn't really like big over here.
Yeah, for sure. That was definitely a US, a cheap US company, that gave you good, solid bargain things that were good. They were solid. They were good. Like a
PV was big here. Like as in terms of imported amps, PVs were everywhere back in the day here.
Yeah. They were pretty much made indestructible. If anyone ever played with a Butcher or a fucking VTM, right? That head shell. Well, first of all, it's so heavy.
Yeah.
But you could literally probably toss that amp down the road and have it tumble behind a car, and it would be fine.
Yeah, that thing's responsible for more hernias than anything else, I think.
Just the head shell. If you take the amp out, the chassis weighs nothing. It's the shell. It's like I don't know if it's a particle board or.
And what were the 4x12 cabs also crazy heavy?
They were heavy, yeah. They were made well though. They had Baltic birch and stuff.
They used prison labor. Have you ever seen those documentaries about PV? It's wild shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Holy shit! Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Mississippi or wherever, somewhere down south.
Meridian, Mississippi.
Yeah.
Not a place anyone needs to go, really.
Yeah.
No, let's
not want to go to prison.
Doesn't sound like a place I want to go and visit. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting observation or question here. So it says, do you think the amp market will crash in like 30 years since the younger guitarists are mainly playing digital? I'm 28 and nobody I know that's my age has tube amps besides me. Well, I'm glad you do, man. Fucking good on you.
Yeah, he had one of my ones.
Sick.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I've had
How can we tell what happens tomorrow? It's like it's hard.
I've had a lot of young people buy my amps.
Yeah, like there is definitely some guys still doing it for sure.
I understand this thought, sure. Which is why we developed like the IRX and the IRD and the the IRJ and stuff. It's like to do that. But generally, those people that use the modelers and then they try the tube amp, they're like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really think that there is room for both. This is the big thing. Like I've been asked so many times, like, "Oh, do you hate digital stuff?" Like, no, I don't hate digital stuff. It's got its place, but I'm never going to use it in place of what does the job better. A real amp to me does the job better 110% of the time. It's for what I use an amp for. I can't get that from digital usually. Like, at least plugins for me don't really
no, man, I
they
don't
hit the spot in the same way. Like, I can use a Kemper or I've used like Fractal or other stuff like that. And yeah, I enjoy playing through that stuff just for fun now and then. It's like it's something different, and you've got lots of different tonal options in there. You can quickly dial in, a sound with a profile that's something you might never actually go out and buy, which is kind of fun. But yeah, as soon as you go back to the real thing, and it's just like, oh shit.
Well, it is like, why would you choose something that's simulating the real thing when you can have the real thing? I mean, that's the thing that I don't. I mean, I get.
Yeah.
I think that so Leon Todd interviewed the guitarist Brett Garsed. I don't know if you know who Brett Garsed is.
Yeah.
One of probably the one of the best, if not the best, guitar player who's ever come out of Australia. Yeah, and he's using an XFX, right? And he was telling the story about how dudes come up to him at the end of shows and stuff. Oh man, aren't you a tube amp guy? Blah blah blah, and all this. And he's like, "Fuck, of course I fucking am. It's all I ever did for years and years and years." He was like, but now I'm doing these gigs where I've got to, like, you don't have any sound sheet. You come and you do your 40-minute, your 60-minute show, whatever, and then you're out. He goes, it's just. This is the digital solution for that job.
Yeah,
like it's a tool, as you're saying, Dan. Right? You choose the right tool for the situation that you're in.
Absolutely, yeah. It's the perfect tool for those guys who are literally like flying to different locations all the time.
Exactly.
Like, it's you can't go bring in like a full size head if you're, playing, in a different country every other day. It's not unless you've got a really great budget.
Yeah, 100%. So look, I think they tube amps live on, man. Never die.
In 30 years, I'll probably be dead. So
yeah.
So it won't matter.
I can tell you in 30 years I won't be building them. That's for sure. So
I'll still be playing them, but I don't know what will happen.
I would be 86, and I don't give a shit then.
Well, there's this thing about the passing on the knowledge. So there was a guy, actually, Sean Webb, who plays in a local band here, a bunch of bands, Marshall guy, right? Like, he's old school. I can still using old 2203s and super leads and all that's awesome. And he's chatting to me when he's picking these amps up that I just worked on a couple of his old Marshalls. He's like, who are you passing your knowledge on to? And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, well, have you gotten like an apprentice or whatever? And I was like, not really. I was able to get some help from my family and stuff, but they're more like the doers, right? They're not really learning the trade, or the skills. And then I put shit out on YouTube and whatever, but no one. He goes, well, what's going to happen when you don't do it anymore? What's going to happen here? Like, who in Melbourne's going to be doing this? And I was like, well, there's a few other guys, but there's actually not many.
Yeah.
So
it seems like it's harder to get into now. Like,
dude, there's not many in the whole U.S. I mean, that are any good, really.
That are any good, yeah.
I mean, I find there's more in Europe and stuff, it seems. Well, maybe not. I mean, I find a bunch of guys in the UK, though, that are pretty decent, like repair guys. No? No,
we're just laughing. Dan did had his
Dan just like,
Dan got the thumbs up. There we go. got the thumbs up going.
It's like if anyone wants some sort of mod to one of my amps, it gets referred to Dan.
Yeah, that's it.
He wants an extra master on the thing. Can you do that?
Yeah, I've got 2 of yours here at the minute.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I've got two small boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do to
Tommy,
him?
Tommy, the one who was in the live chat earlier on.
Oh, okay.
He brought them over to me, and yeah, they're getting the 3rd channel.
With the clipping diodes, the 3rd channel thing.
The 3rd channel, and then probably like a depth control.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's fixed now.
It's fixed now, so it's probably going to be like a, like an adjustable one, and maybe an adjustable negative feedback.
Yeah, sure.
It works nice because then that way it like changes the way the
you got
works.
Options. Well, you have 2 holes back there, so it's perfect. You take out the line out jack and the line out volume, and then you got 2 holes, so you may as well do the two pots.
Yeah, exactly. So it's totally all good. But
that works really well.
They sound great. They sound excellent.
They're that's really interesting.
Era.
That amp is interesting because it's I used sort of JTM 45 filtering with it.
Yeah.
But a solid state rectifier.
Yeah.
So it's got a different feel to the vibe of it. It's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, is the filtering on that similar to the Dirty Shirley?
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty low in the preamp, isn't it, Dave?
Huh?
It's pretty low filtering in the preamp, is my memory of that.
Yeah, no, it's 33 16.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly real vintage. I mean, it's really close to vintage JTM 45. So it's low.
Yeah.
But it works.
Yeah.
It works cool.
It's got a nice feel to it, and it's got a nice tone to it.
Yeah. There's nothing special. It's just, it's without the channel 1 is, well, if you just look at it on a schematic, it's a Plexi. Yeah. It's nothing to that with a master volume added. And then it just hits a gain stage in front. Boom. You can tweak that gain stage to do whatever you want it to do. Yeah. But it's that gain stage is Jose-esque, kind of typical thing.
Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah. Sounds great.
It does.
I've actually got Dave. I've got a dude is dropping off a B100 to me on Friday.
An old one or a new one?
Yeah, a pre deluxe B.
Okay.
And he wants some mods. I don't know what yet, but after I've spoken with him, I'll give you a buzz, man, because I would never mod a Friedman amp without getting your
Right.
You
know it's
still got your name on it, man.
You can do all sorts of fun things,
Yeah.
I do all sorts of fun things, Sometimes people will inspire me to, they'll say something to me and I'm like, huh. And then I'll think about it for a minute. I'm like going, I think I understand what you're talking about. And hey, I got an idea, and then that will become something, you play with it and you're like, oh, that's cool. All right.
Great.
I think it's just a thing. It's almost a courtesy thing amongst the builders, like I had a Red 7 come in last week thing. And I contacted Luca straight away and said, well, this guy wants me to do ABC to it. Are you cool with that? Or what would you suggest? Because it's still, when that amp leaves the shop here, it's still got Red 7 written on it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It just doesn't take a second to reach out and
no, and that's good, and that it's true. Like anyone's amp, it's like, if someone wants me to do something to Jason's amp or to your amp or something you did, it's like, hey, I'm just letting you know I got this thing and he just wants me to do this little thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that cool. I mean,
Yeah.
The only people we're not calling is Marshall. We can do whatever the fuck we want.
I mean.
Once you're owned by an investment company, you're off for respect.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
That's true, brother. Here we go. Changing gears. PCB. Question for the PCB amp designers. How are you guys ensuring there is no mechanical stress on the solder joints between the pots and the board when everything is tightened up. So is this where you have like a PCB mounted pots? I guess is what the question is.
Could be, or it could be if he's talking about free, flow.
Well, here's the thing. You don't do it like Marshall did it in the past, where you hang the board off the pots.
That's a big no.
Because
the whole thing
over time, probably going to crack all the solder joints.
The worst ones for that are the 900s.
Oh yeah, I mean
they all crack.
If it's designed, if the amp's designed properly and the board is secured properly, there shouldn't be any stress on the pots at all. and even designs where we have a front board that has all the pots mounted. Now these pots that I use, at least for that, have crazy mounting brackets on the pots that solder into the board. It's so secure. And then you have like, I don't know, let's say 15 pots holding the whole board in place.
Yeah.
There's no stress on the actual solder connections to the like the wiper and the ground and the input of the pot. There's no stress to that because there is a mounting bracket that actually is supporting it. Yeah. And I'm talking about the little green, Jason, like the little green alpha style pots. And that board is solid as a rock, man. There's nothing going to happen to those pots ever.
No, they're good. They're great.
Yeah. I mean, just not going to happen. And the same goes for everything. Like if you use a thick enough board material and they're plated through holes and a 2-ounce copper and you have tube sockets on them, and there's enough mounting screws for the board to support the board. There's no stress on the tube socket. I don't care how hard you push on that socket. No. It's not going anywhere. We've had runts with everything mounted on the board since 2014.
Yeah.
And I can count on less than one hand, and these are thousands of amps at this point, on less than one hand, how many tube sockets I replaced.
Yeah.
And that was only because one of the stupid Chinese EL 34s that we used at one time had arced terribly. Because those things used to arc like firecrackers. Mm-hmm. And they would just arc anything in their path, And but literally I can't recall. I mean, like what, 5 maybe in all those years? It's not really.
I agree with all
not
that.
A thing.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. There's ways of doing it now that ensures that it's going to be reliable.
Someone asked me. Wait, let me say one interesting thing. So someone asked me that didn't really know much. He was looking at the Jose board. And so the primaries of the output transformer flop up and go right at the pin, right?
Yeah.
Like right to the pin, no trace, just right to the pin practically. Little solder, pad next to it. Mm-hmm. But then to go to the next tube socket, instead of running a trace, we actually have a wire.
Ran a wire
that jumps over to the other right at the pin. Because the minute you're doing that primary and you're trying to run that trace through anything, you're asking for trouble.
Yeah.
Because that's where it's going to arc.
Yeah.
And so he was asking, why don't you just run the trace? I go, because this is better.
Yeah, exactly. It's a better way around it.
It's a shorter path and there's less chance for it to arc ever. So it's how you design it.
Yeah.
100% it is.
Hey, we got Michael. So who remembers MI Audio?
Yeah. MI made some awesome stuff.
Yeah,
Australia, right?
So he's Aussie. So Mike's based in Sydney, and he's been in contact with me and been chatting actually over the last few weeks. So it's good to see Mike back in the amp world, man, because he's been kind of like he walked away from it for a little while or took a break for a while. So he's
What was the overdrive pedal they had? What was the
Crunch box?
Crunch box. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was the red one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was a great pedal.
Yeah,
like
great
Marshall
pedal.
in a box type thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was killer.
Mike's a great designer. So anyway, his comments, this was going back, we were talking about the impact of filtering and screens particularly. So Mike's just adding in that, the choke, don't forget, the choke is a big part of that screen cap effect.
Yeah.
Huge.
It's more complex when you add in dynamic behavior of the choker's core saturation takes effect. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Great to see you in the chat.
Yeah, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. All cool. Who's played? So the question here from Enthroned Oath is, hi guys, with the JCM 800 KK having a built-in noise gate, have any of you ever put a noise gate in your amp? Or is it easy to mod into an amp?
Oh, this is John. This is one of my customers. Really nice guy.
I haven't exactly, although there's something coming.
There you go.
There
you go.
Okay, I'm gonna leak it.
Do it.
Here we go. Come on.
Do it.
I'm gonna
Leak
leak
some
it.
good stuff.
There's a new software that we're gonna release for the IR pedals, and there's now a gate.
Cool.
Ooh,
Yeah, cool.
And
nice.
it works great.
Very cool.
Little 4-position switch in the software where you can assign on each channel what you want it. If you want it lighter, or it's basically just there's no controls other than the 4 positions.
Yeah.
More clamped, a little less clamped, a little less clamped, and no clamp.
Great.
And it's dead silent. It works awesome.
Nice.
This is the thing about DSP, right? Once you've got the signal into the digital world, you can.
Well, we said to people we were always going to update things down the road.
Yeah.
We needed to do a software update anyway because Windows fucked us with their latest update on USB compatibility. It would crash when you plugged it in. Thank you, Windows. So we had to fix that anyway. And then it's like, well, what else we're going to add? So we cleaned up a few other things, a couple other little problems, and then we're like, hey, can we add in gate? Can we try this? And man, it worked great. So you got that to look forward to. It probably be released in the next 2 weeks or less.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So that's coming. So I leaked it. Whoops.
Hey, well, that's good, man.
It's coming though.
That's a great update for sure.
Yeah. And it works really well, shockingly well.
Cool.
So
I think for tube amps, man, there's just so many great noise gates on the market anyway now that it's like you just don't use the pedal. Like you don't really need to. I don't know.
You got the versatility there, haven't you? Some people like some gates more than others, and some seem to work better with certain rigs. And
I just tell everybody to use. I mean, I prefer the Fort and Zool Plus. I think that's really the best one on the market.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, I just tell anybody just get that one and be cool.
Yeah.
You're done basically.
It's a great one. And if you look around on pedal boards, there's still so many people using like a Boss NS2.
Yeah, it's true.
It's like the old school thing, but like it.
2 of them.
It works. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like a couple of them sometimes, and it
one
works.
front, one the loop. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Or like the old MXR Smart Gate. I think I've still got.
Those were great.
Yeah, it was a great one. I used to use it like to gate, like when I used to use a Furman PQ3.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that worked perfect for that.
It was great. It was just like
hushes it up front.
And, it just completely goes silent the minute you stop, because those things sound like you've got an air conditioner running.
We used to use those in the output in the old days. We used to use those on the output of wireless units too, because they would add a ton of hiss, right? So you could set a smart gate with the volume almost at zero, the threshold almost at zero.
Yeah,
but it would just take away that hiss coming out of the wireless, and it would work great for that.
Yeah, because you've also got the little mini switch on the smart gate.
You can,
you can just change how quickly it triggers.
Yeah,
like even on 0, it will still like act. it will still kick in.
Yeah.
But just like at the right point.
SmartGate's a good pedal, man. It's still a good pedal.
It's cheap.
I've never tried that one before.
I think they're cheap, but
it works really well. Yeah.
Check it out.
It's a lot better than the Boss, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know about the new Boss, you know, the NS X.
Well, the problem with a lot of the people that are doing the pre and post thing, so they're triggering off the input of the guitar, is then they create ground loops.
Yeah, they're not like
100%.
They got a
like
decimator. There's a ground loop. You need an ISO transformer between that and the input of the amp, or you get a ground loop. And yes, okay, the pedal can hush that ground loop a little bit, but it's still fucked. Come on, it's just not done right.
Yeah, I don't think it's perfect either.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, in some cases, some of those ones where people are doing the front end gate and the loop gate all in one pedal. There's too close proximity of the two signal lines.
Mm-hmm.
That will oscillate. It'll straight up oscillate and squeal like a pig. If you're at high volume. So
half the problem generally is a ground loop.
Yeah.
So like if you fix that with the ISO transformer, generally it fixes that problem.
Can create squeal.
Yeah.
And look, the other thing is, of course, is that it depends on how many gain stages you're doing, right, and your amp design and the rest of it. But so much can be done with getting a really low noise floor with layout. I mean, I never play with noise gates. I just don't like them. But because they can, and I would, particularly when you're working on an amp, either in a mod or you're working on a production amp, I never play with a noise gate because I want to hear. I need to hear.
Yeah,
to hear it, all the watts and all. You know what I mean? But I get it, right? I mean, I've seen enough real high gain players and how they set up their rigs to realize that, okay, in some situations they are needed.
Yeah, but like you say, there is a lot you can do within the amp to eliminate as much of the hiss and the noise and everything else as possible. Yeah. If you get all that done and it's still got a natural amount of noise and you're playing at crazy high volumes all the time, fair enough. A gate might be the only option.
Yeah, Red 7, they came out with a new gate.
They did.
Saw that. I'd like to check that out.
I have one here. I play with
some sort of it's got like a digital, it's got an LED display.
Yeah, it's got MIDI. It's got all sorts of stuff. You can set thresholds and different things with it. It's cool.
We'll check that out.
Interesting.
Okay, that is cool. If you can have presets and a noise gate, that's pretty cool.
Quick question here, Dave. On the old Rocktron one, didn't they, Dave?
Right.
You probably saw it, the old guitar silencer that had the two
guitar
channels.
Silencers, man, used to work great.
Yeah, I had one. That was great. It was like awesome. 2 channels, and you could set them different, and you could.
Yeah,
it's great unit.
Yeah, in the old days, we used to use those. Yeah,
the old days.
Yeah. There was also a MIDI one they came out with later, and you could set different thresholds and stuff, which is great if you're doing multi-channel things where you can set things differently.
Can you use the MIDI to actually adjust the threshold?
Well, the setting, the setting of the threshold.
So you could maybe use like an expression pedal or something. To
I don't know about that, but
would be cool.
Maybe, sure.
Dave, there's a quick question here about the Synergy Syn 50 for you, just because you're the brand ambassador for everything at boutique amps, clearly. 5150. He was told to set the bias at 30 milliamps. It's currently at 38.
Okay, well, off the top of my head, I don't know what the plate voltage is in that amp exactly. So I would think, though, it is above 460. I mean, to be honest, anywhere between 30 and 38 is fine, to be honest. I mean, you can set it wherever you like the sound of it. I like Ken Fisher's advice years ago.
You said this is Tone Talk.
I said this on Tone Talk too. Ken Fisher said a safe range for vast majority of amplifiers, I think he was mostly referring to 50 or 100 watt amplifiers, right, in the Fender or Marshall ilk. A safe range for tube operation is anywhere between 15 and 40.
Yeah.
And anywhere you like the sound of in that range is fine. And I have to say that's a true thing. I mean, you know, like, yes, the amp's going to work fine at 15. It's cold as fuck, but you might like that sound.
You might like that sound.
You might like that sound. 30, you might like that sound. 32, you might like that sound. At 40, you might like that sound. You know, it's
True.
It's all safe in that range generally, unless your plate voltage is through the roof on an amp or something. Then 40 might be pushing the limit. But it's all safe. The other interesting thing that actually this just came up to me too. You know, when a lot of bias meters will read the screen and cathode current, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you use 1 ohm resistors, for instance, you're reading screen and cathode current, right? Or if you just read the the cathode current, it's about 5 off.
Yeah.
It is pretty close, isn't it?
So what are we talking about? You know what I mean? What are we really talking about? If you take the screen out of the equation, so anything you measure with a 1 ohm resistor, if you set it at 35, it's actually at 30.
Yeah.
If you set it at 40, it's actually at 35.
Yeah.
So, and this just sort of like, I was playing with this on the bench the other day because someone had brought it up, and I'm measuring different things, and I'm like, interesting. It's like 5 off. So actually, if you're using the 1 ohm resistors, you're actually like 5 volts less than you actually think.
Yeah, and like also if you compare that to when you do like the output transformer shunt method, with the multimeter, that'll give you a different reading as well. You know, it's like you're gonna see it different every time.
I mean, the shunt is probably closer to actually reading the actual cathode current without the screen.
Yeah.
So
it usually comes out a bit lower. Yeah. Think. A little bit lower.
So what's right?
If you don't have the screen current in there, then
like if you use the what's the bias probes from who's the JJ in the US, the big JJ company?
Eurotubes.
Eurotube. So if you use if you use their bias, they're actually measuring the current without the screens.
Yeah, it's just plate current only.
Yeah, it's plate current. So that'll measure 5 volts higher than with just the 1 ohm resistor kind of thing.
Yeah, what about
I just went through this with someone because he was asking me about this. He goes,
it's definitely a difference, right?
I was checking out his meter and I'm like, oh, they're doing it this way. Okay.
Definitely a difference. I've got those probes and I can compare like with the amp running, measuring at a 1 ohm resistor and seeing
5 volts roughly.
Yeah, it's about right.
Yeah.
So,
So
say hi to my cat real quick. Check this guy out.
Hi, kitty.
Hey,
Bruiser.
Bruiser.
awesome cat.
What does he think? What does Bruiser think the bar should be set to?
Oh man, he's probably cold bias. I don't know. I don't know.
He's a chilly bastard. Yeah.
That reminds me. I have my, when I was messing with that the other day, I was like, really, I got to fix my meter because my current meter was blown up in my meter, in the fuse, and
I hate that.
And the fuses are these massive 1,000-volt fuses. They're like it's like huge.
What is it, Fluke?
Yeah.
Which one have you got?
Well, I have an old shit. What's the it has a scope in it.
This is that Fluke meter. That
Fluke I had on my bench. Yeah, you saw it, right?
The oscilloscope built in. It's pretty cool, man.
I love that thing because it's the greatest thing ever to trace anything. Because I mean, I could go look what what it is exactly. They don't make it anymore, but
I've got a Fluke here. It's an 87 V.
Oh, with this. No, wait.
No,
No,
it's just got like a big, like a much bigger screen on it, Dave.
Hang on.
Like it'll actually oscilloscope plot.
Nice.
Yeah. And so Dave said, when I saw that meter in his workshop, I was straight on to eBay and Amazon and so on trying to find them, and they don't make them anymore.
Yeah. Usually the case, isn't it? All the best stuff gets discontinued.
That's correct.
Yeah, but you can still get them.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you can find them. You can find them secondhand.
Yeah, that monster.
868. Yeah, it's huge.
867B.
Fluke. Is that what it says? Hold on.
867 B or V?
867B.
B. Okay.
It's a great tool to have because if you're tracing stuff down an amp and you don't want to pull out your oscilloscope probes and do that whole thing, you just set it on AC and you see the waveform and you can just go right through the amp. Boom, 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 boom. It's fast.
Yeah, cool. It's great.
And you can get them used and refurbished and stuff.
Yeah, there's one in the UK right now, 465 quid.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a bit.
But they work great.
The one I got was like 260, 270. But it's great. It's got like really low internal resistance.
Yeah.
So it's great. You can actually use it for things like output transformer, shunt method, biasing. You can't do that with a normal cheap meter. Because you just it throws the reading off too much.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, that's invaluable. Another tech told me about that one, and once I got it, I never use my oscilloscope to trace signal again because I can do it much faster with just this right here next to me, and the oscilloscope's giving my waveform, but that'll just trace the signal right down, and you're fast. And it tells you, you can see, you like if you out of your signal generator, you can see it'll tell you, it's a 1K tone at this amount. It'll tell you all that information.
Cool. Jason actually bought me one with this last run of builds.
What, this thing?
He bought me. No, what did? It's
I got you a
fucking nice
the 187 or 197 Fluke, the same one that I've got.
Yeah, it's a really nice one.
Flukes are great. Most of their stuff is just great.
They just showed up at my door one day, and I was like, "What? I didn't buy this. It's like a $400 freaking oscilloscope." So thanks, man.
Really cool.
Oh, a little oscilloscope meter.
Oh no, sorry. The meter. What the hell?
I bought him a new scope. Well, like you put up with me staying in your house for
proper voltmeter.
Yeah.
Proper meter. I needed a proper meter, so I was like, fucking
I appreciate it.
Yeah. No problem, man. Josh, here we go. This is a question for you, Shea. What's up, guys? Any information on the upcoming Pale Rider or the new Club Secret?
Pale Rider.
Yeah, so I've got a new. This is the new 100 watt. It's not called the Pale Rider. So I haven't released like details on the name yet, but it's a 100 watt multi-channel amp, and it's all done. I've got 2 prototypes done. I'm just waiting on. I talked to Highboard the other day, and I'm just waiting for them. As soon as those ship, the transformers, then I'm going to open up pre-orders on about 15 to 20 of them, maybe. And I'm super excited, man, because for one, it's like I've been building the skeleton key for 4 years now, and it's great. I love the amp, but it's just I'm just the same amp, and it's like I think I'm more excited to build a new amp more than anything too, and it sounds great. You guys will love it. And then we have, so probably hopefully within the next 2 weeks I'll be releasing some details on that. And the Club Secret, the new Club Secret, is an amp that me and Jason have been working on for way too long, forever.
We worked on it when I was in the US in December. We actually had it on, we had the first prototype up and running on the bench and worked on it together.
You got to take, really, like when you build these ideas from scratch, it takes so much time in the design process. And then it's like they got to be like when they hit the market, I don't want there to be any issues at all. You know, it's like, just really taking our time with everything and make sure we don't fucking let people down.
You don't want there to be an issue, but sometimes inevitably there might be an issue that you discover after the fact.
Yeah.
So that club secret is so I took the prototype back here with me, and then I've kind of been working on it off and on over kind of January, February, and rebuilt it into a production prototype maybe 2 weeks ago, 2 to 3 weeks ago, and it's all done. So Josh, you can expect well, I don't know, man, any day. Any day now, right, Shea?
I mean, we've already got the chassis, the head.
I got it all done. Yeah,
we have everything.
Cosmetics done, everything's done.
Yeah.
So what's the like total flavor of this new Club Secret, or is this kind of under
the Club Secret? Is like it's a total mashup of a bunch of things.
Cool.
So it's more of a what is it? It's got elements of the German height gain thing. It's got Jose elements. It's got a lot of ideas just packed together, which is cool. You know, it's different. It's different to do stuff like that. So it's just fun. This was, the Club Secret was really me and Jason's just like little fun project, just to have fun with. And
the key thing with this one, Dan, is and why it's taken a little while to kind of get it production ready is because the gain channel, the gain circuit is so fucking wild.
Let me guess. No cathode follower.
Huh?
Right.
No cathode follower?
No cathode follower.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's just
that's where the German part came in, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
It's fucking wild. Like, man, and then like and because there's some of the plate resistors pretty high value. So you get the first prototype had all kinds of issues, man. But they've all been solved, right? But there was the one where you get the voltage on the plate of the triode was so low, you're getting DC leakage out the grid.
No, you can't get it that low.
Scratchy gain part, all of that. Well, all been solved, right? But all kinds of things.
DC and all that.
Man, 140 or higher.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, well, you can.
I think we were sitting at 120 or something like that.
Man, when we first got it on the bench was 112. I'm like,
the funny thing about that is certain tubes will work fine with that.
Yeah,
like certain Chinese tubes and or old tubes will be fine, and they won't bleed DC out the input grid.
Yeah,
but put a JJ in there or something? Fuck no.
Oh yeah.
It has to be 140. It has to be 100. Well, probably 136, maybe at the lowest.
Yeah.
But I try to keep it at 140 because I know it won't do it there, because then you got varying wall voltages. So if it drops too low, at least you got a little margin of error there.
Well, that's it. As soon as you go past, like a 330k plate, you start getting low on those voltages there, and you get up to 400. For a while, I did like a 470k.
Yeah.
Well, but then you got to block. Then you got to block it with a cap.
Otherwise, you've got scratchy pot.
Yeah, you got to block it with a cap. It has to be a cap in series then.
Yeah, exactly.
With your guitar and to block the DC, but.
It works. You can do it. There's a few different ways to sort of skin that cap, but you can do it with a way that doesn't kind of mess with the sound. But you've got to do something about it because it will just be like, every time you touch the volume pot.
Most of the really good Jose's that I worked on sat around 140.
Yeah,
and at sitting around 140, generally that it won't do it.
Well, if I was going to say, like with some of those Jose's, like some of the things that I've seen in gut shots and other stuff, there's many times where if he was doing the sort of everyone does the 330k plate, but I've seen many of them where he was stringing together 3 100k resistors.
Yeah, correct.
So you've not got a 330k plate there, have you? You've got like
no,
got
300 or maybe a little less.
Yeah, and it might be that he's just tiptoeing on that line.
He's tiptoeing on the line, yeah.
Yeah,
and then you get some Jose's that had a very interesting thing that he did that varied the voltage on the first stage.
I've seen 2 of those.
Yeah. And it was a rotary switch on the back.
Yeah.
And it was not just changing the plate resistor, it was actually bleeding voltage to ground.
Yeah.
And it was probably not the best way to do it, but it would vary anywhere from like 160 volts down to like 120 volts, you know.
Yeah.
And then I've seen some amps where he actually did put the blocking cap in for the DC and the pot, you know. The variable voltage though is actually really cool because I really think changing that voltage on that first stage is amazing and what it does.
Yeah,
it's you play with that voltage. And it's like, even if you put a variable, you know, like a little on the bench clip-in meter or something, you know, clip-in resistor, decade box, and you play with that voltage, you're like, oh, interesting, you know, like the higher voltages is more open and brighter, you know, and then the lower voltages are, you know, they start to get more compressed and a little woofier and a little, you know, there's a fine line there.
Yeah. I saw one that he'd literally just put the pot, you know, in line with one plate resistor after it.
Oh, I saw that. I've seen that one too.
Oh yeah, and it's just like everything on it is heat shrink to hell, you know.
Yeah,
like he's like heat shrink the wires, all the parts.
That's probably not the best choice.
He's got what? He's got a pot as part of the plate.
The pot's just being a plate resistor. It's probably a 250k pot.
No, it is. Yeah, it's not. Well, there's not a lot. There's not a lot of current.
That is rough.
I mean, you can do that.
Yeah, it's not pulling current massively.
There's no current.
Plate,
there's no current whatsoever. So you can do it. A half watt pot will work.
Yeah, exactly.
But
you know,
there's, well, you know, 100 and some odd volts on that pot.
I know. You're thinking like it's got a solid metal shaft on it, you know, and it's not a good feeling.
I think there was a better way. That's why I always say, you know, like when I was doing this Jose amp, I'm like going,
that's not one you want to put on.
And people got on my case for this because I said it's the traditional circuits. I didn't do something extra, but I did improve the switching.
Oh yeah, the switching,
because the switching was so archaic at the time. It just wasn't the best choice, you know. And now we're much more advanced in what we can do with switching and relays and things, and where we put it and how we do it. And you know, all I said was that. And like one guy said, "You're throwing him under the bus." I go, "No, I'm not. I'm like full respect to him. I'm just saying that I fixed this issue."
If he was still doing it to this day, he would have figured that stuff out by now.
100%.
Yeah,
sure. And but like doing switching voltages in that first stage, it would be really easy just to series a bunch of resistors together and use a rotary switch that is just, you know, shunting the different resistors off. And you can get whatever you want out of it, which is really fun, actually.
That's cool as
like kind of like a stepped attenuator.
It's really fun because you can listen
to... I remember maybe you showed me some photos of one, but it had like maybe 8 positions or something on that plate.
Yeah, I have the schematic of it. It had like 8 positions or something, or 6 or 8 positions, but what it would do is it would shunt a resistance to ground. I have to review the schematic. I did a schematic of it. I'm like, oh, but why are you doing this way? You know, like this seems kind of, it effectively did the same thing as doing that, but it would have been much better if you did it the other way.
But
that's a key point, you know?
Yeah, it's cool
Hey,
though, like
Brad.
to see this stuff.
What's up, Brad? You're still here.
It was cool. There was one in particular amp that belonged. There's one in particular amp that was a 3-in-1 mod, so no clipping diodes, and it was the original amp. When I was 18, I went to work for Andy Brower's Studio Rentals, and that was an amp he had Jose do, right? It was in the rental fleet there, and this amp was a 3-in-1 mod, but it had that voltage little click thing on the back.
Oh yeah.
And so the first Bullet Boys record got recorded with this amp. They rented it forever and paid a fortune for it.
Yeah.
And then later somehow convinced him to sell it to them. So at the time, you know, these amps weren't worth that much at the time, you know, but at the time they sold it to him, I think, for $3,000.
Yeah, it's a lot of
which
money.
at the time was a fucking huge amount of money, considering most Marshalls were like $300, right? They sold it to him to the original guitar player of the Bullet Boys. And why is his name escaping me right now?
Is it Mark something?
No, not Mark, not Mark Turin, the singer. Hang on, it'll come to me in a second. I'm old. So later, I got this amp back across my bench.
Somebody said the name
Mick Sweeta. Mick Sweeta. Mick Sweeta. So later, all these years later, he had that amp still. And so I got to see that amp again now as who I am. I didn't, when I was 18, I wasn't an amp tech, you know, and I get to see that amp, and it was really interesting to see that amp again, you know, and it was, it's the standard 3-in-1 mod, just the extra gain stage. But the interesting thing about that amp was it had that voltage switch, and the first gain stage, instead of a 0022 out of it, it was an 022.
Oh, interesting.
With a 0022 to ground, you know, the typical Jose thing.
Yeah.
So it was a fatter front end.
Yeah.
But that amp sounds really great. It sounded incredible. It needed new filter caps. It needed some love, you know, again, but we got it up and running, and we're like, but you know, kind of clean and just like punchy, you know, really good. And but when you play with that voltage switch, I've determined that there's a small amount on the voltages that are really good, and some of them just aren't great, you know. And that's somewhere really good is around 140.
Yeah.
You know, somewhere right around that vicinity, you know, give or take a little bit either direction. It's cool. Yeah. Well,
when you get really low on it, then you start getting some like really weird odd order harmonics coming through, right? You know, when you dig in with the pick, you almost get an instant pitch harmonic kind of sound.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. You know, it's definitely
Speaking of that 002, I repaired a CCV recently.
That was an 022 on the first stage.
That one had a 02. Yeah, 022. But I never really liked
all the CCVs had an 022 on the first stage.
And then the second stage was the
00.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I measured the plate voltage on that amp unloaded was 580 on the high mode. And
because he used 500. He used the power transformer for like a Marshall 45-100 or something, which is like super high voltage.
Yeah.
And then he biased it.
Oh God, the bias
to like 50.
Yeah.
Insane.
Talk about those bias. Talk about where those bias pots were, Shea.
Oh my God, he damn near booby trapped this amp. He's got. I could honestly, Respect. I mean, total respect to him, but man, that is a dangerous amp. I mean, no guitar player should be inside that amp unless you know what the fuck you're doing. He had 2 bias pots within a quarter of an inch away from 580 volts. And to turn those bias pots, you have to use your fingers. So like it's a death trap. Like you're going to, you kill somebody, you get sued big time for that too,
Well, no 2 amps that he made were alike either. That's the other thing. It's like whatever parts were on the floor is what got used in the amp. You know what I mean? Like, so whatever surplus this or that he used, so no 2 amps were the same.
Yeah.
It's like roughly the same circuit. Yes. But it's like, well, these ceramic caps, I got them right now, so I'll put these in, or these coupling caps, I'll throw these in, or maybe I'll use WEMAs, or maybe I won't, or maybe I'll. So some are good and some aren't.
Yeah.
Or I don't have the right cap, so I'm going to put these 2 in parallel, and it's close enough.
My general feeling about that amp was he just didn't want anybody else touching that amp other than him.
Probably not.
And
some of them got spray painted inside as well, didn't they?
I've seen the pictures of
the mods.
Yeah, I've worked on God knows how many of those Camerons, not the CCVs, but the Moddy Marshalls.
Yeah, I've done some.
I got a video. I got a video of one that was extra special. I mean, I can't. Instagram, right? Did you see? Yeah, I might have put. Like, oh Jesus.
Yeah. Well, that one was similar to. Yeah, that was kind of similar to one that I had. It had probably a 2-inch thick layer of RTV silicone at the bottom, which was clear, and then there was another 2 or 3 inches thick of black silicone on the top. And I had to work on it. I had to get under it because something had failed, and I sat there for like
scraping it away, picking it away.
I had like a little medical scalpel. I'm just cutting away little like fillets of silicone until I got to the bottom, and then I got to the bottom of it, and he'd sanded all the part numbers off anyway.
Yes, of course.
So,
If I got one of those amps in my bench now, I would call the guy up straight away. Come and get your amp.
Oh, really?
Unfortunately, the ones I've had to work on have been like one I had to pick through a bunch of silicone because there was a cracked solder connection way down deep in the thing. But some of the other ones I didn't have to do that because it was something simple like a cracked jack on a loop or something. It was it's like, oh good, thank God.
I had a Cameron modded JMP in here maybe a year ago, and thankfully someone had been gooped, but a previous tech somewhere along its life had painstakingly.
Oh, maybe I did it.
Maybe this amp definitely came out of the US. I did a video on it, and there's a really fascinating comments, right? Because when you put a Mark Cameron video up, then everyone's in, and the amp definitely had history in the US. People and I actually followed up some of the stuff that was on there, and I could see earlier pictures of the amp on Rig Talk or one of the forums. I can't remember. It was the same one though. But most of the comments are hilarious, right? Because they're like people in the video, they say things like, "This is what happens when you build amps on meth," or something like.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's the craziest. This mod was the craziest freaking thing you've ever seen. It's just like.
I know of that one. Yeah, and it is quite crazy in there. It's like there's a load of stuff on like an extra board in there, isn't there? And
man, it's like a crazy science experiment.
The amount of time that must have taken as well,
man.
To be fair though, that particular one was one of the better executed Camerons I've seen. Like the wiring and stuff like that, and it was cleaner than some of the ones I've worked on, you know. But the few that I like got to work on that didn't need to be picked apart. It was if like a resistor or something had a cold solder joint on a tube socket, And then it's like great because you don't have to go digging through the whole thing.
It's,
And,
nice.
It's right. It's easy to get to it, even if there's a bit of goop on it. But
and then you're relieved, and you're just like,
yeah. I had that. I had one. So I had a high gain Jose. He did, and it was just goop to shit.
yeah.
And it ended up just being a dirty pot. Thank God.
Yeah.
Like that was all that was wrong with it. It just was a dirty
Yeah.
pot. The pot, I cleaned the pot, or I don't know if I replaced it, but I was just like, thank God that was it.
Yeah.
It would have taken so long.
Yeah, I mean, there's there's other stuff out there that's similar, like where it's like what is it? The Dumble stuff is under like the blue goop.
I think so.
Yeah. It's like I remember seeing a few Dumbles that had like this blue goop in there. You can work with it. I remember a long time ago I did some that I did in an epoxy box.
I seen that.
Yeah, you seen one that
I saw that one, yeah.
Yeah, it was way back ago. And I just
Was that a rock monster?
Yeah, and it's what, you just get to a point where after a while you just realize, what's the point?
Man, I'm
stuff.
like that.
You're trying to hold on to something, and like then you just realize, fuck it, what's the point?
Whatever.
Man,
the best one is the urinal putt thing.
That was the old metalhead. The old metalhead. Yeah, the urinal puck.
Yeah, you know what? Those. If you do those things in a proper epoxy pot, you can't get into those things.
We call it the toilet mod.
Yeah.
Oh, those amps were notoriously just fucking the most mess you've ever seen. It was spaghetti. You open the amp up, it's like spaghetti, and you're like, shit.
Well,
also the other thing is it's full of that Teflon wire. The 8 wire, the stuff that's got the white with the coloured band on it.
You worked on one.
Oh yeah. And for years I was buying the wire from the same company.
Yeah.
That Teflon stuff, and it's there's just strings of this stuff coming out of that. You can't tell what you're getting.
You open the amp up right there.
Yeah, it just looks like a big load of hair coming out. Almost it's just crazy.
It's
terrifying.
But
if I'm not mistaken, though, if I'm not mistaken, the gain mod isn't in the urinal puck.
No, I think that's the gate.
It's a noise gate.
It's the gate, because it's connected. You can see it's connected to the bias. The negative voltage for the bias is feeding it.
Anyone work on any cruise mods?
No,
he's worked on some of mine though.
Has he?
Yeah, I saw a couple that I'd done.
He has some plastic boxes in his mods.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I don't know what it was. It was like labeled on the back as like a variac, but I don't think
you know what that is? That is
a big screen resistor, isn't it?
That is just changing the screen resistor value to much bigger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And that actually surprisingly works.
So we're talking like the 1K screen resistors that are on the sockets.
Yeah, you vary whatever's feeding it, right? Whatever's feeding the 1K, you just put a big resistor in there.
So you've got a camera named at the same
before the 1Ks.
Before the one, okay.
Before the 1K. Yeah. So off the screen,
it's just varying amounts of screen resistance, and it actually works. I don't know if
it's crank the amp. Like when you're running the amp at low volume, you don't obviously not much screen current happening, so you can't really notice it. But when you crank it, you'll go, "Oh yeah, look at that."
Yeah, well, no, you notice it. I mean, I wrote down what the values were, but I don't.
Yeah,
you can notice it for sure.
Yeah, and the other little boxes. Well, that's interesting, but we won't go into that right here.
Yeah.
I don't feel like slagging anyone on stuff.
No, for sure.
Yeah,
we'll save that one for next. We'll save that one for next.
Save that one for private.
To be fair, from what I've heard of his stuff, it's some of it sounded cool, and he sounds like a great player. His demo clips are really good playing on him.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but I don't have any experience with his work, so I can't really chime in. I've never seen anything like real.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get into the next question, guys. Lou's asking, what amp has a blend for less or more bright cap on a knob?
You can easily do that.
Yeah, I've done it.
Me too.
Yeah, I've done it before, and it works. It's cool.
You know what? Again, what amp does have that stock?
Say that again.
You know what amp actually has that feature stock from the factory? Is the Origin. It's pretty much what the tilt.
Oh.
Pretty much what the tilt knob is.
Yeah, good point. I forgot about that. When I worked on one of those, I was so busy just ripping everything
ripping
out.
it out.
I didn't even really take notes of the stock circuit. I was just ripping everything out and putting all.
It's meant to be like, it kind of works like the tilt knob in that design is meant to be like a blend, like if you're blending channels on a Plexi and you can go between the normal and the high treble channel. It's kind of like that. But my memory of it is that all they're basically doing is it might be 1,000 picofarad, 1 nanofarad bright cap that you can basically on a pot blend it in and out.
Yeah, exactly. And as you turn it to the bigger cap, you're going to get that thicker, darker kind of,
I think so.
I guess.
Have you worked on any Origins lately, Dan?
You know what? I've only ever worked on one of them. It was a few years ago, I think. Yeah, I seem to remember it was near Christmas time I did it, and I did kind of like a slightly stripped down version of the Killer Cali, the 4 gain stages, plate fed, tone stack. Obviously you've got to dump the stock loop in that, and then I put in a Metro amp loop because I think it was the only board that I could get to fit in place because of the radial caps getting in the way.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's a huge pain in the ass because then you're limited. Because I've also got some other boards that I use for a solid state loop, and those wouldn't fit. I just couldn't get them in there. It was just it was no way of doing it because of those really tall radial.
One of those ones where you put I've done a bunch of them. You put the loop on a standoff with no jacks on it and wire to the stock jacks.
That's
that are already there because the whole rear of the amp is a single PCB strip.
Yeah,
I guess you could cut the PCB or whatever, and then but it's easy just to do that.
Yeah, that's how I approached it. Just stuck a standoff on it and did it.
Or can't you just replace the whole damn board now?
You can.
Yeah,
for Alex's board.
Alex did a board, and there's I don't know. Here he is. Here, what's he asking? This is Alex here. There must have been Alex. I don't know, man. Maybe 30 of those out in the wild now.
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, I'd say so.
I mean, if I was to mod something now, just like, let me just change the board out.
The way to do it.
And then whatever, you can make modifications to his board, like if you, much easier,
way easier.
You want it to be something different.
Way easier. As long as you've got someone to populate the board for you, it's good.
I'm about to do it on this one I got here. It's a 2203. It's one of the later versions, the horizontal. So it's got the PCB mounted jacks.
Yeah.
Board, right. Yeah. But one thing, and I've done a 50 watt of that before, and it turned out really good. I just, they've got different filtering, so I just switched the filtering. But this
is the one.
This one has, so those later versions, the 100 watts only have 3 filter caps.
Yeah. Well, they progressively got less and less. I think the first horizontals had only 1 less filter cap, I think. And by the end of that run, by the end of the 80s, they'd gone to just down to 3.
So, yeah. I was sitting there going, damn it. I'm definitely going to have to replace the board with this. And then just do, I've got some boards that can like take some axial caps. So I'll just use like a production board for it or something.
Is that one of Alex's boards?
What's that?
Is that one of the boards that Alex did?
Oh, no.
ST1 style thing?
Nah, I might just put like one of the V2 skeleton keyboards in there or something like that because we had the axial caps on there. Just be easier. I wouldn't have to drill any holes or stuff like that.
Yeah, just rip the whole board out and throw it away.
Yeah. I've got a few in there.
There's a lot of people in the chat here. It shows you how far behind I am. A lot of people in the chat here talking about modeling versus real amps. Of course, they're all saying rear lamps are better. Okay. What to next here, guys? Trying to find the next.
I've been looking a little bit. There's so much.
Would you all consider having guests on the show? People like Hendrik Hermansen, especially his amp sounds super unique. Yeah.
I mean, he does an amazing work.
Yeah, super clean.
I mean, like the rebuilds of like the PA heads and things I've seen him do. It's like, I swear to God, I have a PA head sitting here next to me.
Yeah.
An old Marshall PA head that I had gutted for some parts for another amp. And I'm like looking at it going, man, I should send it to him. Just here, have at it.
Do something with that.
I mean, I don't know why. I mean, like I just because I'll never get to doing something with it. That's why.
He does amazing work, man.
Yeah.
You know. Those are like PA heads are totally like what I associate him with.
Yeah.
You know, he's done. I've seen so many that he's done, and they're great. It's really cool.
Yeah. His stuff's built super great. I did a repair on a 59 ham wide rebuild that he does.
Oh, cool.
And it's it's nothing like obviously nothing like
the work is super clean,
super great. And the only problem with the amp was the LND 150 on the send stage of the loop had failed. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with the amplifier at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it was beautifully made.
I had one guy from Canada, and he wanted one of those Marshall because Hendrik had done, what was it? I think it was just it was a reissue Plexi, 1959 SLP, but he kept the original Marshall loop in there. And when we made those new Marshall replacement loops, the guy sent it down for me to put that in there. But it sounded great too. I thought the amp was super cool.
Yeah, super aggressive.
Yeah.
There's a lot of gain. Real chewy mid range actually in this amp. It was
cool. He seems to do amazing work. So I should have him on Tone Talk.
You should.
100% should though.
Yeah, I should reach out.
Yeah,
get him on. Yeah, that'd be super cool. Jason, I saw you play a Black Explorer with Cream Damasio's. Yeah, they do. It's a sweet looking guitar. Yeah, man, it's a 1979 Greco.
Oh, those are great.
Grecos are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that came out of what feels like a lifetime hunt for an Ibanez destroyer.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Really so as soon as I saw this, it was listed locally. It
was made by the same factory.
Yeah. And the guy I bought it off, he once every 3 months he contacts me.
He wants it back.
Yeah.
He wants it back.
Dude. Yeah. Sorry, man. It's never gonna happen.
I don't have any show and tell, but you know what I just bought that was kind of interesting? I bought a Tokai Star.
Oh, wicked. Yeah.
And it's like this aged white. So it's all yellow, one humbucker, a tremolo bridge, but not a locking, but like a regular tremolo bridge, and a maple neck. The frets were shit.
Yeah.
Someone had put on a cheap bridge. I got a new bridge for it, like
easy stuff to repair.
Easy stuff. But like the vibe of it, when you saw it, you're like, oh, I got to have that. And it was like nothing, cost nothing, like cost $550 or something. And it's like, I'm going to get that.
Yeah.
I took it to my guy and it's like, he saw it and he's like, oh, that's cool. I want to, Can you refret it, please? Look at the frets. They were like flat. I mean, like flat.
Fretless wonder.
And I'm like, I mean, it's a solid maple neck and Tokai. This stuff good from the 80s. It's from the 80s.
It'd be amazing.
A new bridge, and I have a bare knuckles cream humbucker that's going to go in it. So it's all going to come together, and it'll be fucking killer.
Yeah,
it's really light too. I'm not sure what body wood is made out of, but actually, I got to have them tell me.
Yeah.
Hey, can you scrape away some paint down there and figure out what body wood it is?
You got like scrape away inside the cavity somewhere.
Yeah, in the back tremolo cavity, scrape away, please. And Can you tell me?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be great, though.
Oh, I'm sure that whole era of those guitars is brilliant. Have you
played
many? No, go for it.
Sorry, Dan. I didn't mean.
No, I was going to say, have you played many of the like the Les Pauls from like Greco or Bernie?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I have a Bernie.
I've got. Oh, you've got a Bernie as well.
A friend of mine's got a Bernie. It's awesome.
Oh wait,
Freaking great.
Nice.
Here we go.
Hey, we got
just
sister
like
guitars.
Oh,
Bernie boys.
Yeah,
The Bernie boys. Nice.
Dude, this guitar is better than any Les Paul I've ever played.
Yep. I'm with you on that.
By far. I mean, this is from the 80s, and it's got more of like the 1960 neck. It's got the smaller neck, right?
It's like a C shape, yeah?
Yeah. But it's tiny, it's kind of thin.
Yeah. It's thin C shape kind of thing. It's not a big fat neck.
No. And it sounds wicked.
Yeah, they're great. This one is from like 87 or something like that.
So
yeah, mine's 80s too. Yeah, sometimes 80s.
This one was trashed, but I don't know if you guys can see, but check this out. I had the fretboard completely removed.
Oh,
and they
shit.
put in a flamed ebony.
Oh, okay.
So you can see also, look, the inlays are actually real pearl now.
Oh, cool.
They're like aged. They're like amber pearl.
I have the same tuners and everything. It's the same. It's like the same guitar. Same thing.
It's great. Yeah.
Cool.
Mine sounds fucking incredible.
Yeah. My friend Simon, who's a UK builder and tech, he's got a company, 81 Guitar Works. And yeah, he did this, and it's like a completely new guitar.
Yeah.
Big stainless steel frets, everything. It's like my new favorite.
That Bernie's, those are great.
Yeah.
And man, what pickups have you got in that, Dan? What pickups have you got in that Bernie?
The Bernie's got a early 80s Gibson Dirty Fingers in the bridge.
Oh, cool.
And then it's got the Sykes thing, exactly.
Yeah.
And then in the neck position, it's got a bare knuckle emerald. And then this is a Greco from like 84 or 85.
Oh yeah.
This is actually like a bit heavier, a bit thicker neck, but like I scraped all the paint
probably
off.
Same factory.
Yeah, it's the same factory. A very slightly thicker body on it, but this one's got the bare knuckle poly path pickups, the new ones they did. So but yeah, both crazy good guitars. I had some Gibsons before this. And I've not really had any desire to get anything else, No,
I don't either. Like I'm not really a Les Paul guy, but that Bernie is amazing, and every Les Paul I played compared to it doesn't sound as good. Yeah. So I just like, okay, I'm good. I got one. That's cool.
Yeah, exactly. If you get a good one, then it's great. It's perfect.
Absolutely. Have you guys heard of the this guy Crab or Crab Amps out of Ukraine?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've seen his amps.
He makes a Mark IIc kind of thing.
Yeah, like reissue kind of, a clone kind of thing. Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, with like the sliders and all the rest of it on the front. Yeah,
pretty inexpensive in Australia, of my memory. I've seen some prices and thinking, whoa,
they sound really good. I've seen videos of compared to a real thing, and it was like, well, it sounds the same.
Yeah, I know Brad actually messaged me. So Brad's Guitar Garage a couple of weeks ago, and he said, have you heard of Crab? Because Brad had one on the bench. I'm not sure what was wrong with it, but he said to me it was well made.
Whoa!
And we know that Brad, if it wasn't well made, we'd know. Brad would tell us.
Brad would be like,
yeah,
this is fucking shit.
Yeah.
Pretty
Pretty much.
Be
like roll the tape. I'm going to tell the world.
Pretty much like the Lazy J video.
Correct.
That's my favorite video
go down
ever.
In the all-time takedowns, man. If anyone hasn't seen Brad's Lazy J,
man, the Lazy J video of Brad did is just like,
oh man, I got to check it out,
dude.
I haven't seen it.
You have to watch the video, and you're just gonna crack up. Like just a few minutes into it.
Yeah.
All right, I'll check it out.
Yeah, you'll have to send me a link.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Brad, yeah. That's when I knew I loved him.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, He's just
I'm like, wow, okay.
This is the way. This is how you do it. Anyone needs a reference point for proper AMP YouTube videos, just go and watch that.
Now, what we have to do is we have to get Brad and you and Shea and Dan all coming to the NAMM show next year.
Yeah, there you go.
Come on.
I think we got to do it.
Just come and do it. You guys can all get get an Airbnb together, and it'll be cheap.
Dan, have you been to the States before?
Yeah, quite a few times, but I only went to Florida.
Okay.
Well, okay, that's a problem.
I went to Florida like 9 or 10 times, but that's it. I didn't go anywhere else.
Yeah, that's not the States.
I was going to say, does that not
that's a whole other world.
That's funny.
Yeah, I got that feeling when I was there.
That's not the no.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need to go to New York and you need to come to LA.
Yeah.
You probably actually, to be honest, you should see Detroit too.
So basically just like a
maybe
trip.
Chicago. And that's it.
I think Detroit's super cool, man.
Detroit's amazing now.
Hey, you can still buy a house there, you know. So I read that
look where you are. You buy a house there too.
I did. I know.
Yeah.
I did.
But like the median house home in Detroit is like $74,000.
No, it's not really though.
That's what they say.
Well, okay.
Maybe because a bunch of them
like in Detroit City proper, I guess maybe you could say that, but that doesn't mean you want to live where that median house price is.
Yeah.
So no, you're talking more like $200,000 to $300,000
for a decent spot.
You know, for a decent spot in a decent neighborhood. Maybe and up, of course, but you know, prices have gone up a lot there. But my daughter lives there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It's probably a great
It's so funny. Like she never really knew Detroit, but she moved around a lot. She's a Delta flight attendant. And she lived in Portland for a while, and then she lived in New Orleans for a while, and then she went to Brooklyn for a while in New York. And then they decided to move to Detroit because they checked it out and they're like, and she goes, I'm never moving anywhere else.
Right on.
Yeah. That's a fun city.
It definitely had like
it's
a big
it's your hometown, right?
Hometown, yeah. It's a fun city to visit, man. You can get in all sorts of trouble.
Oh, I bet.
Great venues, great concerts, great bars, great restaurants. It's just like there's all sorts of shit to do. It's on the water, you know, it's like there's lots of lakes. It's like, you know, it's good.
Sounds like fun. I'm not
sure.
We'll
talk more about that NAMM thing for sure, man.
We do.
We gotta figure that out.
I'm not sure we want to weigh into this question, but other than it's affecting all industries, isn't it? In some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Man, it's a complete shit show. I mean, come on. I mean, like, all right. I don't want to really get into this too much, but like, why on earth are we fucking with Canada?
Oh yeah, that's that.
Come on. They were the free trade agreement we had with them forever. They were, you know, it's almost like being in the US, you know, it's like it's very close borders. And what did they do?
Most of our imports come from Canada and Mexico.
You know, I mean, what the fuck are you thinking? Sorry. Yeah. What the fuck are you thinking? And yeah, I don't want to hear any of this bullshit about bringing fentanyl. You know, I don't want to hear any of that bullshit because there's not that much coming from Canada. Come on. But bringing, you know, production back to the US and stuff, this is not possible.
No,
it's really not.
It would
not at a price that people are prepared to pay.
At the course of the last 40 years or something, right? So this has slowly been, you know, moving away from US production. It'll take another 40 years to bring something back. And then you can't produce the stuff here for the price that people want to pay pay for the product. You can't do it because the worker is not going to want to work for what they have to work for. It's not feasible. It's not feasible. Not to mention the amount of money it will take to build okay, let's say you want to make semiconductor chips. All right. This technology, first of all, we don't have anyone that knows how to do it. Number two, to set up a factory to do this, it might cost billions of dollars, literally billions of dollars to do it. And then do we have the people to staff it to actually make this product in the fashion and the quality that we get now from other countries? We don't. And I just don't see the work ethic of people in the US working force. I just don't. I mean, I hate to say that, but I'd like to say, yeah, it'd be great to have all these things, but I cannot buy any electronic parts that are made in the US. Our capacitors, our synergy caps are made here. That's one thing. Literally the only thing we have that is made in the US. Our chassis are fabricated here.
Yeah.
From steel all over the world. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we don't know.
Our transformers are made here from steel all over the world. I'm not sure where.
Yeah, exactly.
And from wire and copper from I don't know where.
Yeah.
Those are our chassis made here, our transformers are made here, and our capacitors are made here. Every other part of the whole entire amp, including the Tolex, the glue, and the wood, is not manufactured. Is not here from here. Everything. Yeah. So the wood, the wood is from the Baltic states, and the I think the Tolex is mostly manufactured overseas also. And the glue for sure is manufactured overseas. And the piping is overseas. The handle is overseas. Because there is no one making that here.
Yeah. So it's kind of like saying, like, this, I don't know, man, I want to get into a discussion about world economics. But the thing is that industries like ours, and what's happened with boutique amps and Friedman and so on is like, it's a value add product, right? You assemble commodity parts from different suppliers. Doesn't really matter where they come from, but you create something completely new and different with those inputs.
Sure.
And that's the value add. The value is not in making those parts here. Like, there's no value.
They don't exist. It doesn't exist. I mean, go find a resistor here. I mean, maybe there's a couple companies that do it, but maybe. But they're not going to manufacture exactly what you want.
How do you, there's like, all you can do is compete on price when you're making resistors.
I mean, really? I wish there were pots made here that were good. There isn't.
We all wish
Just
that.
think now with Canada, what the price of PEC pots will be.
Oh man!
As it was, they were like $20 a pot. So what are they going to be now? $40 a pot?
Yeah, it's crazy shit.
We're not going to use those. What are you going to use? Tell me, please. CTS pots are not made here.
No.
So, it's an American company, but they're not made here.
Yeah, so we'll make it through it. I'm pretty optimistic, honestly. I think we'll make it through it.
Tubes aren't made here. Tube sockets aren't made here. Oh, I don't know. I can go on and on. The standoffs you use aren't made here. The screws you use aren't made here. Oh, by the way, your American-made car here is not made here. Most of the components in your American-made car are made offshore. They're assembled here. All the computer systems in your cars, not made here.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. Your iPhone you're talking on, not made here. Your computer you're typing on is not made here.
Somebody drop a really good question so we can get off the topic.
Get off of this.
I'm going to change this, because I have no idea what Sean is talking about. It seems like I've been censored by Jason. I haven't touched. I don't know what you're talking about. Harry
Joyce? Are you talking about?
No, Harry in the 80s.
Oh
no,
Colby.
You're talking about Harry Colby.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Harry Colby, I know I've worked on a couple of his things over the years. He was big in the New York, definitely in New York, but it never caught on here on the West Coast at all.
Didn't Billy Duffy from the Coldplay Harry Colby stuff?
Yeah, I worked on a few.
What was the general flavor? Like, what kind of? I don't know anything about.
I mean, it's I'd never traced out anything from it, but I did work on a couple of Billy's amps. I think it was impossible to trace because he had some stuff covered up and stuff. But
there's like an epoxy, but
yes.
there, yeah.
And it was okay.
I'm guessing maybe there's something in there that's like maybe a little bit of like solid state stuff or something.
I mean, if you were going for that, Billy Duffy kind of semi-clean, crunchy, electric kind of tone, it did it well, that kind of thing. It didn't do super high gain very well, and it was okay. It was. I mean, I worked on a few of his amps. Because he uses all my stuff now, so
yeah.
Is Colby still doing amps?
Is he still alive?
I'm not even sure.
I don't think I think he passed away. I could be wrong. Please don't quote me on that.
On High Tour one time that they were making transformers for that company.
I don't think so. I think Colby has maybe passed away. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Please don't quote me on that because I don't want to tell anybody you're dead. Oh no, I'm not.
He's back from the dead.
Well, if he's still around, Dave, you might be able to get him on Tone Talk or something.
Yeah, I was just googling, looking, seeing if I could find any info. But
I want to get in Tone Talk is Pete Cornish.
Oh yeah,
he's still alive. He's really old, I think, though. But that would be a fun chat.
Have you heard Mike Fortin on Tone Talk yet, Dave?
No. I should reach out to Mike and see if he'll do it. I think I might have reached out before and he didn't want to do it. We had Mike Soldano on.
Yeah, Mike's been on a couple of times.
Mike's awesome. But I don't know why. You know what? I tried to get Rick from Wizard too on. And I've known Rick for years, and he's like, yeah, I don't really do stuff like that. And I'm like, come on, man. Why not? Let's chat.
Yeah. Yeah, some people just don't like doing this stuff on camera.
Yeah.
No.
I don't understand. Like the Tone Talk thing is we have a chat. It's like sitting at a bar and you're having a beer and you're having a chat.
Kind of like this.
That is exactly what we do. And that's exactly like this, where it's just a virtual bar.
Yeah.
One of these days we have to do it from a bar.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
It'd be cool.
I tried that once, but the Wi-Fi didn't work, so we had to revert back to coming to my shop.
Brad's done that. Speaking of Brad's Guitar Garage, so Brad had Sykes from Dr. Gear. Those two guys sat out the front of a pub in Sydney and did a live stream. Kind of worked. It was pretty cool. I think they eventually moved inside, but sat out in the garden bar and did a live stream.
It's just a hangout. That's what this is. This is just like our Sunday hangout. Just
for sure.
Sure.
Yeah, well, Dan, you obviously got connections with Mike Fortin, so maybe we could get Mike on as a guest. That'd be cool.
Yeah, totally. Would be really cool.
Yeah,
Mike's great.
Has Mike ever done anything like this at all on any channels? Like,
I don't think so.
I don't think he has.
He should.
He's probably been asked, I would imagine. You know, he's a pretty well-known guy.
I'm always like, what are you afraid of? What are you gonna do? What are you afraid of? Just it only promotes your brand or promotes you in the public eye.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are you afraid of?
Yeah. To be fair, I think Tone Talk, when you invited me on there, I think that was the first thing I'd ever done on like a live.
Yeah, and it was fun.
Yeah, it was great. I was nervous before. I was totally nervous beforehand because I was thinking like, shit, I haven't done anything like this before, but it was great. It was easy.
Yeah, it was a good episode. I watched it. That was a great.
Well,
episode.
I mean, it's just like, you just shoot the shit. That's what you do. You just like, you have a drink or you shoot the shit, and you just it's the whole idea of that show always was, let's just have a conversation.
Yeah,
I'm not sure where the conversation is going to go because we have no set plans ever how this is going to go. And it could go for the good or for the bad. I mean, I've had guests that were like, okay, this is 30 minutes in, huh? All right. Well,
yeah.
I
know, man.
Are we going to make an hour?
Yeah. You can sense pretty quick if there's going to be a good flow with it.
It's all about the flow with the guest, like if they're talkative or you can feed, if it's like pulling teeth to get them to say anything, it's rough. It's rough, and occasionally that's happened. Of course, that's just the way it is.
It's the worst when you get yes or no answers. For everything,
it's just like, well, how would you elaborate on that, please?
Like, no,
you gotta kind of like it doesn't always work out.
Especially when you're only doing, like when I did that run of shows in 23, and a lot of them I just had one. It was just me and the guests, right?
Yeah.
And mostly it was fine because you just chatty guys, right? But there were a couple where I was like you just said, Dave, where it was like I knew within the first 2 or 3 minutes, I thought, oh my God. Yeah. and then you realize that you need to, like, as a host, you need to be prepared for that with questions and stuff that you're gonna have in advance, and then all of a sudden it becomes a chore. And it's like, I've got to actually prepare for these things.
That's when the show becomes an hour.
Then it becomes a pain in the ass, right? So this is kind of one of the reasons why in 24 I really didn't do many of them.
Yeah.
So this format is great because I know with you guys, I don't have to do anything.
The greatest part about this is like any of us can go to the bathroom or whatever, and it's fine.
Yeah.
Because there's 3 other qualified amp techs that are able to answer these questions while we're gone.
The only job with you guys is to get you to shut up so we can move on.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the hardest part. You can't shut us up at all.
We're all talking over each other and shit.
Whoa.
Interrupting. That's fine. That's good fun.
Cheers, guys.
You still drinking your little Sauvignon Blanc there?
Had a little.
Well, you emptied it.
Well done, man. Good job.
Well, I got some in a glass here, but
I finished my last beer, so we had Allagash Curio. So this is a U.S. Belgian brew. So these are like 8%. 8%.
Yeah. I used to drink those Belgian ales, like
I love the Belgian ales.
Triple and quadruple and all those ones.
Those are amazing.
It's lethal. There's some of them are like 12% and stuff. It's crazy.
They're lethal, but they're amazing. They taste amazing. So this is actually a U.S. brand that does an amazing job at making a Belgian ale. So it's kind of expensive, but it normally comes in a big bottle, and it's like a $20 bottle.
That's cool. This is funny. I just watched an amp tech by the name of Psionic Audio. Would you guys have considered doing a stream with them? That's Lyle. We all
That's
know
Lyle. We have.
Lyle's been on
haven't we?
Tone Talk. Lyle's been on my channel before. I was on a stream on Brad's channel last week. So were you, Dave, right?
So was I, yeah.
And Lyle celebrating 10,000 subs for Brad. So we all know Lyle.
We love Lyle.
Yeah.
That stream was a little chaotic.
Too many people?
Too many people.
Yeah.
How many people?
Was it 5, wasn't it? Was it 5?
Yeah, but no one seemed to understand how to shut up while the other person talked.
Yeah.
That's what I gathered. Like, there's a certain element, like you have to pay attention if someone else starts trying to talk, and then you got to, hold on.
Yeah.
And then you got to let the next person go too. And there's a certain like kind of balance that has to happen. But that was a little hard because I'm like, oh, never mind.
100%.
Yeah. Too many people actually gets a little weird. I mean, the rhythm here works pretty well, it seems like, between the four of us, but because I think we know when to not talk and someone else to talk and like kind of feel it out, like, right?
Yeah. All the questions make it easy too. Like all the questions that you guys put in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lyle was there.
Hey, Dave, man, I just, the other day you had a Tone Talk with Mark, and I had my daughter, so I popped in for a little bit, but did you say when you were doing pre-orders on your Jose?
Okay, we're not doing pre-orders per se. We are doing a waiting list. So the waiting list will be next week. We'll announce the waiting list, and you'll be able. We'll put it all over everything, social media and on our website. So you'll be able to actually get on the waiting list. What getting on the waiting list means, I think, unless we change this idea, depending on how many people are on this waiting list. When we have a bunch of amps, we will give you an email that informs you, hey, tomorrow, maybe we'll give you a little more time. Maybe we'll make it 2 days out. On this date, at this time, we will have amps live in the web store.
Nice.
Fight.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So, but we will not announce that to the public. Yeah. Only to the waiting list.
Seems like a good idea.
So, yeah, I kind of want to make it the fight. I don't know. I mean, it's like we were tossing around different ideas on how we wanted to do that. And, part of it was like, hey, we could, say we have 50 amps. First 50 people on the list. No, I don't want to do that. I want to just go, because there's going to be some people that are going to go on the list and they're going to be, oh, I don't want it now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
depends, like when you
we're not taking deposits or anything, because there's no way we're doing that. I mean, that was nixed immediately, the thought of that, because we just don't want to be in that position. So it's more like, when someone launches a new tennis shoe or something, a new sneaker or something, right? Some brand, they basically tell people, hey, it's going to be live in our web store on this date.
The model works great. I mean, I've done it. That's what I did on my last round, and it
as long as the server doesn't crash.
Yeah, there you go. That too, right?
This can happen. So apparently, with Wampler, they did some stuff recently where they did that same thing, and their server crashed. So we've upgraded that server since then, and it shouldn't be an issue. Hopefully, it's not an issue. And then I'm going to get all the flack. You can ramp up the. It doesn't matter, people, because even if you don't get it on the first one, there'll be more. It'll just be. We're gonna, there's going to be X amount made and released, and then there'll be X amount made and released, and X amount made and released. So, if you're on the list, you will get notified, and every single time, and it won't be a public notification.
Cool.
like the Black Friday fights.
Not to mention, I don't know about anyone else, but I think when you do it like that, it creates a certain fever. I got to try to get it now.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. This is like, even if you don't want to buy it or you don't have the money for it, you might just go, fuck it, I'm going to go there and get it now.
Yeah, you have a few too many of these. And you
yeah,
just
right.
Go,
you have a few too many of those. Fuck it, I'm going there.
Well, as long as you have, like, if you declare the exact time that it goes live, it does allow pretty much anyone around the world to log in and get one.
I think pretty much we'll figure out what that time is that makes sense for around the world, and that makes the most sense for the vast majority of people.
Because it will be direct. It's available direct worldwide. Like if. Or is it just
actually, no, it's not. It's only US. So we only have to figure out US. So,
okay.
It makes life easier.
Pretty much we can say 10 a.m. Pacific time and we're good. And maybe I'll give them 2 days notice so they can read their emails.
So if you're in Australia or whatever, you'd buy through Deluxe or Better.
Actually, yeah, Australia and everywhere else in the world is dealers.
Yeah.
So yeah. But it's cool. It's a cool amp.
Yep. Giving them a little heads up is a good idea.
Yeah, I mean it's a cool little amp, Again, it's the traditional circuits. It's not, we're not adding to it or we're not adding anything to what was done.
The classic circuit works
it's
good
the
enough.
classic circuit works good.
Classic circuit for the classic times, man.
Yeah, the most fun on that amp to me is the two presence circuits.
Oh yeah.
So I have two separate presence circuits. So it's either the vintage 0.1, vintage style presence, which were in many Jose's, but in also many Jose's was the 0.68 5K circuit, which was the newer style circuit, but with a 5K pot and a 0.68 cap. And you can switch between these two presence pots, and that's huge depending on what mode you're in on the amp.
Yeah.
Depending on what, if you're in the lower gain mode or the higher gain mode, that little deal is like everything to me.
The 5K one is a little bit, you get a little bit of a boost with it, don't you?
Yes.
Like is it the 5K that gives the little bit of a...
Well, everything gives, like that circuit, yes, but many, many, many Jose's I've been in were the 5K 0.68.
Yeah,
because it was on later 70s amps.
Yeah,
and many. But so I got both. You got both. You can you decide in what mode and what gain mode you're in. You decide what you like better.
Yeah,
both are good. I mean,
the Jose sounds great with all of those things. It sounds really good with a 5K 0.1 presence too.
Sure,
this is really great.
Yeah. Either way, it sounds good. So the 0.68 one is the new style with a, with the, the 5K to ground, or the 5K that's always in there, and then it's just the new style. It's just not the bigger pot where it's going more
you're
off.
just kind of limiting the cap, aren't you?
Yeah, and then the other one is the vintage style with all the scratch and everything.
Yeah.
But both are good.
Yeah.
And when you can just switch between them and you got two different pots and you're like, oh, that's cool. I like, this one's fatter. This one's kind of cool. This one's fat. And like the 0.68 one, and
it is different for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Jason doesn't like the 0.68 one. I don't think you've heard it right.
I'm just not a fan. Well,
I've had them. I'm not a fan of it either.
I've had.
I don't know, man. When you put it on the switch there, when you got two pots right back to back, I'm telling you, the 0.68 sometimes wins out.
Yeah, I've got a 2203 from the 76 or 77 that's got the 0.68 with the 5K pot. And I mean, obviously, that's not the usual value for a 2203.
No,
but it sounds great.
It's got a thing.
Yes,
I mean, to be honest, I haven't put it on a switch, Dave, and just gone back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But I've definitely made the change in the same amp back and forward. but it takes a minute, obviously.
Yeah. It's
well, the way I did it was really unique. You can do 2 pots, and because the first pot I use is the tail resistor.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So then I'm switching the other one in, but that pot is still the tail resistor.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And then you can really switch between it really easily.
That's a good idea.
But all those, like a lot of those, the Mick Mars amp and all that stuff, that was a 0.68 5K. So I mean, you can't argue. I mean, it has a thing.
You guys ever seen
with the
and all the Cameron stuff's 0.68?
Yeah. Was the Steve Vai one 5K 0.68?
One of them was 0.68, and the other one I did was the 0.1.
The one that
I don't remember that Pete did. I don't remember. I think that was a 0.1.
Yeah.
Yeah. 0.1's a little thinner and brighter, and then the 0.68's fatter. And the thing is, when you don't have a resonance circuit, right?
Yeah.
I find the 0.68 is kind of cool because it adds a fatness to the amp that a resonance circuit normally adds.
Yeah.
And when you have a resonance circuit, it's like too much.
Yeah.
So Dave, that Richard Fortis amp would have been a 0.68. I'm guessing
it was absolutely
based on how that amp sounded. Yeah.
And about half of the Jose ones I had had that 0.68. It was just the era amp that they did them on, like, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry,
because
Shea,
he didn't change it. He didn't change it. He just modded the fuck out of whatever amp he had. It didn't.
Yeah.
It didn't really
change that.
There was no rhyme or reason to anything else. Like, it was just like, put the mod on this amp.
Yeah.
That's why some sound like shit and some sound good. You know.
Yeah. So, Dave, did you get to work on any of Sykes' Jose's?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes, 100 watt,
like
100 watt JMP era one that he had.
Interesting.
It was this one was a high gained one. It had a diode clipping that was broken.
Mm-hmm.
The diode clipping had failed, so it had no. When it came to me, the diode clipping wasn't working.
But it had a pre-tone stack master with no diodes.
Pre and post push pull.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it had the push pull. So it had both.
Right.
So if the diodes were working, those are in on both. I mean, that's really in both positions. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I refurbished that.
Cool.
And then I don't know about his 50 watts and stuff that he had, the JCM 800 ones. I haven't seen those.
Yeah.
Although I am in contact with his son. Maybe I'll get to see those eventually.
Yeah, maybe. It would be cool, you know, historically to see like what the deal was with those, because
I know I was going to tell his son, I go, I don't know what you're going to do with all your dad's amps.
Yeah.
But it would be good to bring them all through. Make sure if you are going to ever sell them or do anything with them, it'd be good to bring them all through and make sure they're all functioning.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, properly and are healthy, you know.
Yeah.
Which is an excuse for just seeing them all.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
it's such an obvious.
Yeah.
I do need to be checked, you know.
Yeah. I don't think it's anything I haven't seen. I mean, I've been through like 100 of these fucking amps. I mean, I've seen everything now.
It's interesting though. Like, you never know what you might find. It's like you're opening the.
We all know though, right? If we got to plug into those amps, we're still going to sound like us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
we're not going to sound like him.
No, John was like, I mean, like literally, I mean, I did work for him up until a month and a half before he died. He came by my shop a month and a half before he died. No one knew anything. I didn't know anything, man.
That's scary.
And he looked as healthy as he ever did. He was just like, there was no, you know, came by and chat. Man, he told the best stories. Oh my God, they were classic. The stories that were told. about every era, about Phil Lynette from Thin Lizzy and him living with him and all these stories. Just how if he ever saw David Coverdale again, he'd punch him straight in the face.
I was gonna say, I bet he's got some Coverdale stories.
Oh my God, he fucking still hated him to the last day he died, till the day he died. And his when he auditioned for Ozzy story, that was classic. Was a mess.
You're gonna have to share some of these stories sometime,
Yeah, I wish I could tell him as well as he did, though. His whole animated self telling this story was with his English accent and everything was just like, fuck me. I wish I tried for a long time to get him on Tone Talk.
Yeah,
and
so man, we're on the 3-hour mark. So maybe you could, if you can remember one of those stories, that'd be a nice way to finish off.
Well, like he told me when he auditioned for Ozzy, it was an interesting thing. Like, I'm not going to tell this as well as he did. Okay. So but let me give you a basic gist of it. So he gets a call he was living with his mom at the time, and he gets a call to his mom's house, and like it was like, I don't know if it was Sharon Osbourne or something. And this is blah, blah, blah. And he's like, who is this? He didn't believe it was them, Yeah. No, this is like, oh, okay. Oh, so can we'd like to audition you for, or whatever. So can you meet us at this studio in London or something, which was considerably far away from wherever he was. I don't know where he was, but he was out a little bit.
He was up in Blackpool, I think.
Yeah, or something. Yeah. So it was considerable trek down to London, right?
Yeah.
So he went down with his guitar, and took the train or whatever, to down there, and he went to the studio. They weren't there yet, but when he went to the studio, there were some other mates that he knew in the studio recording, just this studio, and like he knew them. And so eventually, the limo pulls up front, and Ozzy gets out, and Sharon gets out and comes in, and he's visibly impaired, shall we say. He is well, 3 sheets to the wind is what is how you would call it. And Sharon puts him in a room with him, kicks all the other band out of the studio, puts him in a room, and just the two of them, right? And it's just like, well, plug into that amp, and it's some like custom amp or something, some terrible fucking thing, He's like, and John's like, fuck, what am I gonna plug into that? That's terrible. And he's like, well, could you do, can you do this or can you do this? And he plays some things and stuff, and then Ozzy's like, he's out of it. He's like, let's do a line. So he sets up these lines of blow or something, and John's is like, he's like, I didn't want to do this, it's just like, but he's like, fuck it. Okay. And, so now John is completely wasted himself. And he's like, all right, can you write a song to this? And Ozzy hits a chord on the piano. And Sean's like, wait, what? Probably, yes, I could do this, but could you play that again for me? And of course, Ozzy didn't know what he fucking played. He doesn't play piano. So right. He's like, he goes, I guess Sharon at one point in time calls down, how's it going? He goes, I don't know. Ozzy's like, I don't know, I can't tell. I mean, I don't know. And then Ozzy proceeds to go around the studio and pees on all the curtains in the studio.
Oh my!
He's like pissing everywhere in sight. And John's just like, oh my God, what the fuck? I'm wasted now. And this guy is making no sense whatsoever, and like, oh, fuck this, And so I guess after he peed all over the studio, he left. It's like, he goes, and John's like, now I'm wasted and I have to make my way all the way home. And this disastrous fucking mess, right?
What
and he makes and he told it much better than I'm telling it. I mean, like it was hilarious the way he told it. I might even be missing some details of this. And you know, he goes, I made it home, and like I'm just like, well, that was fucking disaster. Fuck it. There's no fucking way.
When do you reckon was this mid-80s or something? When would this?
Oh, hang on. And then like it was weeks. And they finally called him and they go, we'd like to offer you the position. and he goes in the interim, he had gotten a call from Thin Lizzy.
All right.
And he goes, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do Thin Lizzy. And he just bowed right out, you know. And then he went on to Thin Lizzy for a long time. So I don't know what era that would have been. So that would tell you kind of roughly when it was.
Yeah, it's probably like 83.
Yeah, right before probably he got Jake and stuff in the band.
Yeah.
Right.
So but man, he told it much better than me. So fuck it. I'd probably fuck that all up.
Nah,
that was the rough gist. That was the rough gist of it, right?
You got the gist, man.
Yeah. He said it was like, fuck.
What he entered the Twilight Zone.
That would have been a total glimpse of what life in that.
Yeah, he was like, I don't want anything. No.
He would have been like, I mean, that would have been like that every fucking day at that point.
Yeah. And he was in a particularly bad spot after Randy died and stuff, too. So, he was a mess. So,
yeah, shit.
Yeah. So that was that story.
There you go. Well, thanks for sharing, man. That was cool.
It was great.
It was good. Well, guys, it's 3 hours and 5. So, man,
we're good.
Wrap it up. Yeah, we'll do it all again in a month from now, everyone. So,
yeah,
it's fun hanging out with you guys.
Yeah. We'll say goodbye. Hang on the line, guys. We'll end the stream. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you in a month.
All right. See you guys later.
Hey.
Yeah, man.